What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Shonen and Chill, episode 5?
I believe so.
5. We're going with 5. If I'm wrong, I'll edit this part out. Welcome back to Shonen and Chill. So today we have a lot to talk about. We should probably just jump right into it because what a week this has been.
Mm.
I'm not going to ask you chapter of the week because I know it already, and we're going to talk about it for like an hour and a half. So I'm going to do mine first.
Uh-huh.
Mine was Chainsaw Man this week
Mm-hmm.
again, which is shocking. Chainsaw Man has all of a sudden gotten really good. The girl you
Mm-hmm.
asked about that we didn't know what happened to her, she's back doing stuff,
Uh-huh.
living life,
Mm-hmm.
living large. And
Mm-hmm.
I really like this was an entirely dialogue chapter. Nothing in it happened other than sitting down and talking. But it
Mm-hmm.
was just Denji growing up. It was really nice.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause he's just like talking and thinking that he's worse than everyone else, and then she kind of just tells him like, "Isn't that just what life is like?" And he kind of has this come to Jesus moment a little bit, and then he sees on the screen all the people cheering for Chainsaw Man, fighting devils and all this stuff, and I don't know, it was heartwarming. I really liked it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think in Shonen Jump specifically, whenever you get a chapter that is like dialogue only, it has a good chance of being really good because, of course, the magazine is filled with, "Hey kids, look at this, pew pew, boom boom." So having like these dialogue only chapters always feels very brave and always feels very rewarding if you're invested in the characters. So yeah, I totally feel that.
Yeah, I don't have a ton to say about it because again, it was just sitting and talking. There were a few cool panel layouts just of Denji watching the news and stuff, and all the people with their Chainsaw Man merch.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. It was just like it was a very calm, very quiet chapter of just two people kind of like, oh, everything really sucks, and just kind of building each other up. It was very sweet.
Mm-hmm.
All right, why don't
Yeah.
you go ahead and tell us what your chapter of the week was?
My chapter of the week was also my chapter of the year. And that's My Hero Academia, chapter 290. Now, Zen, are you ready for
Oh
this
God,
discussion?
let's just go.
Okay. So chapter 290 is of course we finally got the Toya Todoroki reveal where Dabi came up and revealed to everyone that he is in fact Toyotaro Todoroki. Um, and I know it's not even a twist at this point. I feel like I need to stop calling it a twist. It's more like a moment for the characters and for like the starting point of now Dobby the I guess secondary main villain since that's the vibe I got this week. And I loved it. I just unironically completely loved it. I had exactly one issue with the chapter, and that's that I think black hair Dobby looks infinitely cooler than white hair Dobby. But that's kind of it. I loved it from top to bottom.
I want to know
And
how he
I,
got hair dye out just by pouring a bottle on his head. He dye
yeah,
that way.
I thought so too. But then I remembered right before he does it, you seem like shake it violently. So I guess it's like I don't know, this solvent or I don't know what you use to dissolve hair dye. I've never dyed my hair.
The man just poured grade A chemical. It's just raw bleach on his head.
I mean, honestly, can he get any worse burns at this point?
That's true. What's the difference?
Yeah. And also the other thing is, I remember in one of the data books they said like, oh yeah, Dobby stinks. So I'm just assuming he hasn't showered ever since
Well,
he
he's
got
covered
to
in
be.
rotting skin. It can't smell good.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I loved it a lot. Um, I think it's more interesting to ask you what you thought about it.
So I was pretty pessimistic coming into it,
Hmm.
because everyone knew, like I said, we this for years.
Hmm.
And again, the reveal of the information did nothing for me. Like seeing the,
Hmm.
oh, I'm your son. I was like, I know, we know.
Hmm.
But the way it was done was really good. And I'm gonna say predictable a few times, and I think people are gonna take that as like a negative. Not really,
Hmm.
not really. I mean, it just means that we knew where it was gonna go. I think even on this show, at the beginning, we predicted exactly what he was going to do with the
Hmm.
TV guy and how he was gonna
Yeah.
tell the exact story that he ended up telling. But the
Hmm.
way that they executed it was, well, not they, the way that Horikoshi executed it was really good.
Hmm.
Um, I was expecting to almost come out of this chapter kind of rolling my eyes, Like, oh wow, yeah, well, we've known for 5 years, great. It
Yeah.
actually was really good. Um, I don't mind white hair Dobby. I kind of like it because it kind of clashes with his outfit a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
He's still a super edgy boy, but now he's got the white hair. I kind
Mm.
of like it, but just the way that the speech that he gave to Endeavor, I liked a lot. Where he
Mm.
was kind of like, he kind of just broke him down piece by piece exactly right the entire way.
Mm.
Like every single thing that he wanted, and then the full page image of him where he just says the past never dies looks so
Mm-hmm.
good. I love
Mm.
that page. No, it was great. It was really great.
Yeah, I think what this chapter does really well, and you touched upon that, I think it just makes Dobby's process of revealing this such a monumental thing because, you know, if Horikoshi thought that this would have been like a big surprise to everyone, A, he would have been kind of stupid, and B, I think what he would have gone for is like, a big cliffhanger. Like that he says, "Oh yes, I am Toya," and the chapter ends, and then we have to wait a week. But here, the way he does it is basically Dobby just walks up to them and just goes, "Hey, I'm Toya, and now for the rest of the chapter, I'm just gonna keep talking about how I have like systematically planned to tear down Endeavor and everything he represents." And I thought that was done so well. Also, just like the glee he does it with. Like everyone is fucking dying, and here we have Dobby like washing his hair for the first time in a decade and doing a Fortnite dance, basically.
Yeah,
Like,
he's just skipping around. I really like the beginning, right at the beginning of his speech too, when he's like, "You ended up getting bumped up to number one, and all of a sudden I was kind of happy for you for a minute."
hmm.
And then he's like, "So then I just decided that I was gonna be happy for you so that you could start rehabilitating, so that I could ruin it."
Yes, yes.
It's really good, like because a lot of revenge plots like this, especially in like a shonen manga, kind of can fall flat because it can just be like, you had the thing I wanted and I didn't get it, and I'm gonna get
Hmm.
you. And he kind of starts because it's his speech to Endeavor and Shoto is kind of interspersed with the whatever they put on the TV.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
on the TV, he's talking about like, oh, I was a failed creation, and he rejected me for my brother who is better than me, and like, but it ends up being that like he's not that mad at Shoto. Maybe I mean a little bit, but like
Hmm.
he tells you straight up that like I was gonna kill Shoto because fuck you, but then
Hmm.
you got to number one and you started trying to be nice, and I could see that you were trying to be better, so I decided why don't I just fuck you over instead.
Hmm.
And it's just I don't know, it's a lot of foresight in like a villainous cliche that normally wouldn't have it.
Hmm.
Because I feel like if this was in the majority of shonen, it would have just been like, Shoto, you were the good one, and I'm the failure, and I will get you. And he was like, yeah, I kind of hated the kid, but nah, I just don't really give a shit. Fuck you, Dad.
Yeah, I do agree. He seems like he's kind of over it, and now this is just part of his grander plan. Because of course he seems to have some bigger idea in mind. I don't think it'll boil down to just fuck Endeavor. Because if that's all it is, it'll be a bit flat. But considering the planning he's done with the TV broadcast and his whole speech about Stain's ideals, I do think this is going somewhere rather interesting. And I also think, yeah, he must be at least somewhat like distanced himself from the emotions he felt when he still was Toya, because he reveals in this chapter also that he was behind like the random villains that kept walking up to Endeavor to fight him, like, and that includes Ending, the guy who almost killed Natsuo, the brother that Toya supposedly loved the most, which is also again kind of interesting that he really seems to have completely disconnected himself from it, and this is just kind of the fun thing he's been planning for a couple of years. It's interesting. I'm really hyped to see what we're getting because I mean at this point I'm almost certain next week is going to be like a flashback chapter.
Probably, yeah, we're probably going to dip into some Toya stuff for a little bit before they actually
Mm.
continue. So here's a question for you. Does Dobby kill Endeavor here?
Here's the thing. If you'd have asked me this a couple of months ago, I would have probably said yes. But now I'm almost wondering if he's just gonna let him live so he can live through society shaming him for his actions. Because I feel like it's gonna take a similar route to All Might, where living through your own decline is infinitely worse than dying um at any point, you know. Um Although I suppose it could also go the other way because of course the reason All Might stayed alive and be the reason why that was worse for him was because of course he couldn't die at his lowest point because his lowest point was immediately recouped by like the people going, "Oh, All Might, we believe in you," and whatever. I kind of don't believe that's going to happen with Endeavor here. So maybe he could get killed here with all the people like, you know, uh shaming him. In the spread you see the Can't You See kid, like his number one fan on the TV watching the broadcast. Like Endeavor dies as that kid is like ripping his Endeavor posters off the wall or some shit. I could see that happening, but I would call it less likely than the alternative of Endeavor coming out of this arc alive, severely wounded, and like publicly shamed and destroyed. But I don't know. What do you think?
I'm kind of the same way. I think it could go either way. This plan is almost coming off a little weird because of the all for one in Shigaraki's head thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much of this plan he's in on. It feels very
Mm-hmm.
disconnected from him entirely.
Yeah.
Like, because all he's talking about is like, okay, time to run away, time to be done, time to run away, and then Davi's like, nah, I got shit to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's a little weird where they're gonna go with it. I would think that All for One, if he had any say in what was going on, would be like, just kill him because
Mm-hmm.
he's in the way. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
I think with Davi, depending on how, like you said, emotionally attached he still is to it, it may be. When are we gonna stop calling him Davi and just start calling him Toya? I wonder.
I don't know. I think it's gonna have we're gonna have to wait until we find out why the fuck he chose Dobby as a name. Although I suppose we do know it because Dobby translates to cremation. So I mean I still my personal theory is still he named it because Dobby is backwards for I bad. So
It's very edgy. Uh,
well, I'm sorry. Suddenly he's too edgy.
hey,
That's
no, that's fair. That's fair. Um, yeah, I don't know. I could see it going either way. I think that either because, like you mentioned, the All Might thing, but
hmm
this kind of parallels that in a slightly different way. Whereas All Might won, and if he had died there, it would have been to chance of his name as the greatest hero ever.
hmm
Whereas if Endeavor is to die right now, it would be to the understanding that the whole world probably hates him now, and that
That's
everything
also
he tried
true.
to do was pointless.
Mm.
So I could see it go either way. I wouldn't be upset
Mm.
if either one happened. Like, I think you could kill him right here, and I'd be like, okay. But I think you could also leave him
hmm
alive and just find a way to make him not particularly combat relevant, because
hmm
we all know the time skip is coming. And I think
Yeah.
it might be hard for me to swallow the time skip pill if all of the major heroes are fine and they're just
hmm
hurt or whatever, and then you're gonna tell me like, oh no, they just didn't do anything until Deku's ready
hmm
to come back.
hmm
Um, so if you can find some way to make him not a combat threat and leave him alive, I think that would be fine too. Both of them would work.
Yeah, because I mean, I do think Endeavor is going to be removed from the combat encounters after this arc, one way or another, because he is really hurt. I think he says in this arc, in this chapter that half his lung is gone, which I mean, I know we're in Magic Land, and that lady can kiss him for hours and he'll be fine, but I feel like when Hori calls out injuries, they usually end up meaning something. And maybe I'm just pampered because that's the case with Deku most of the time, most of the time. But I do think that the way everyone is being shown as like super injured in this arc will have consequences one way or another. And the other reason I think it is simply that I think Endeavor's kind of had all of his cool action moments he can at this point. Like I can't imagine many more like cool flame power set pieces specifically for Endeavor. But I'm of course also not writing the story, so. Um, but yeah, it's gonna be definitely interesting how this arc interacts with the next one, because of course this isn't just this plot, this twist or this moment isn't just happening to any one character. It's happening to our local remedied question mark abuser, which of course makes the entire situation a lot more interesting in the long run. And you know that also counts for Shoto because now he's the not the son of the number one hero anymore. He's the son of a piece of shit and the brother of a murderer. And
Right.
I wonder how that'll interact with like the world and his class. I mean, I forgot for God's sake, I hope the class reacts to this and we don't get a fucking black whip situation. Or like, oh man, that kind of sucks. Anyway, what's for homework today? It's like, come on, Hori. Consequences.
Yeah, I don't think anyone in the class would particularly turn against him for this. I mean, they knew from the beginning that he didn't like his dad. That was not news to
Mm.
any of them.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the class, if anything, maybe some people would be mad about it, like maybe,
Mm-hmm.
but I think most of them will probably err on the side of being supportive
Mm.
because that
Yeah, I
this
mean,
is probably an insight into what Shoto most likely went through as well.
mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, well, I don't even know how they're really gonna. You can't really go back to school after this, so I don't know what they're gonna
That's
do.
also true.
Yeah, you can't have a classroom setting really anymore after this. So
Yeah, that's my biggest fear with this arc, that Hori does the typical shonen thing and just presses the status quo button. And I'd hate that. I'd genuinely uh drop MHA in my ranking quite a bit if that happened, because an arc like this cannot be followed by, so we're just gonna go back to like the formula. Like this needs
back
to
to
be a
gym
game
class
changer.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because originally this arc kind of looked like it was going to be a massive W for the villains on a physical scale,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's not looking that way anymore. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of looking like the villains are ready to bounce.
Mm-hmm.
Because All for One is like, we got to get out of here. Giganto, whatever the hell, big boy only listens to him, so he's not
Uh-huh.
gonna just start stomping out heroes if All for One is like, we got to get this decaying corpse of Shigaraki out of here, because he's
Uh-huh.
gonna die soon if we don't. He's
Mm-hmm.
not gonna keep fighting. So I think at this point, other than whatever's about to happen between Dabi and Endeavor, the combat is mostly over, and
Mm-hmm.
so the heroes are going to lick their wounds and go home.
Mm-hmm.
And like, not, they're not all dead, they're not all defeated. Society hasn't explicitly crumbled as of the events of what's happening right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is just kind of another nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
So I think there is a decent chance that we get an arc after this that is life at school, but there's protesters outside.
Yeah, that's possible, and I think I like that. If we get like a slower paced arc leading up to the inevitable time skip, where we just see society slowly fall into ruin because of these revelations, and of course, whatever other revelation Dobby has, if Dobby is what many people now theorize he happened to him, which is that he was recruited by the Hero Public Safety Commission together with Baby Hawks, because obviously he knows his name somehow. If Dobby can expose a like government child soldier program, whew, that's gonna be ugly for the society. I mean, honestly, after this arc, it's gonna be ugly for society anyway, because they literally did use child soldiers. They took a bunch of students and were like, "Yeah, go fight this thing that kills everything in like a 10 kilometer radius. Have fun. Like, you're not even allowed to drink yet, but I hope you're ready to fight for your lives." It's like, even if the heroes didn't foresee that it would get this bad, in the eyes of the public, what will have happened is they will have sacrificed pro heroes, they will have endangered children, and they will have pretty much nothing to show for it. Because if Shigaraki escapes, they literally have not achieved anything aside from neutralizing the high ends, which the public, might or might not care too much about. So yeah, no, I can definitely see that. Like a slower paced arc was just like, hey, everything is decaying, and we don't know where Shigaraki is, and he might come back at any point, and we need to prepare. Shit's gonna hit the fan, and then they're like, "Hey, Deku, you have like this dad in America, right? Go and become buff and get a shitty haircut in like 2 years."
Get the Naruto and the Ichigo
The
short
dad cut.
short dad cut. Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm actually really interested in what time skip designs could look like, because people are, because what was it, last week or the week before, Horikoshi had an author's comment where he was like, I have to draw a couple of new designs and I can't tell you for what, but you'll see soon. And people are like, oh yeah, he's definitely like designing the time skip designs now. Um, like, I really wonder how the folks will look. I mean, I wonder if Deku's still gonna have his arms after this arc, honestly. He's gonna have
Yeah,
like,
I imagine they're not gonna make him a leg literally only has legs hero. Um, But they could. I mean, Aerie is still in play,
Yeah, that's
so
true.
they could do something like where right now he can't, like they're crippled and he can like
Hmm.
hold a pencil, but that's about all the strength he can get out of them or something.
Yeah,
Um, Eventually he will get them back. Um,
probably. I mean, I feel like the archetypical imagery of the shonen hero is still so prevalent that having a hero who literally only has legs probably wouldn't sell well.
Probably not.
Um, yeah. I mean, maybe they will full metal him, like just give
Okay,
him
he gets
like,
full on like metal gauntlets that just run his arms for him. Because I don't think
yeah.
his arms are gonna blow off or anything. I think it's maybe even just for the theoretical like I'm at school but it's really bad and there's people with signs outside arc. They'll talk a little bit about how like you know yeah I can take notes and I can like eat but that's about it. I can't like
Mm.
punch. I can't put that much strength into my wrists and my arms and stuff. But with Aerie in play, I feel like she's weird because she can't do it yet, but she's kind of like the inevitable hint of there will be Dragon Balls eventually. So
Yeah.
how they use her going forward with all of this irreparable stuff is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, I wonder about that too, because of course they did set it up, right? They were like, okay, Eri in the future might be able to rewind big things like Miria losing his quirk and everything. And I always wonder, like, how much of that is just like Hori throwing us a bone and how much of that is serious? Because, like, with how the series has been so focused on, you know, you break your arm more times and you lose it, you lose your quirk, it's gone, and all that stuff. I almost cannot imagine him going back on it like that hard because, of course, if you take Ares' quirk to the logical extreme, as you said, it's literally the Dragon Balls, like nothing is consequence anymore. I can almost not see that for the series. It would feel really out of place. But then again, Hori did write Heroes Rising, and so,
Well, it's
it
just
is
hard to tell
possible.
because there's a lot of very obvious tropey things they could do with her in the future. Like,
Yeah.
the big hero moment where everything looks bad and all of a sudden a restored Mirio shows up and he's got his powers back and he saves the day. Like that would be so generically like Naruto or something. Like
Yeah.
that you can see it happening easily. And I don't right now I could almost see Mirio not ever returning to relevance and not worrying too much about it
Hmm.
because he's just not that big. He was really
Yeah.
big for the arc that he was in, and they set him up to be really big. And then he
Hmm.
kind of lost his power, and it feels like he's not needed anymore.
Mm. Yeah, I feel that too.
Because
It's
Deku
like,
had his moment of like, what if I give you all for one, or one for all, or whatever, whichever fucking one for all. What if I
hmm.
give it to you, and then you were always supposed to have it, and just take it, and I feel guilty. And he was like, nope, I don't want it. You just keep doing you, man. And that kind of was it, right? Like he
Yeah.
and All Might, All Might saw him do that, and they had the little talk, and like Mirio as an obstacle for Deku was always weird to me because they were
Hmm.
like, Mirio's the closest to being the number one hero, even though there's pro heroes that are number two and three. Um,
Yeah.
and that was always weird. And then, Mirio was like so not necessarily overpowered, but pretty close.
Hmm.
Um, that you needed to take him kind of out of. He was not like a story breaker power. Like I could see him losing to people, but he was pretty
Hmm.
close to one.
Yeah.
Um, Almost on an All Might level. Because like you said with Endeavor, like the high end Nomu almost beat him because he was just built that way. But like,
Hmm.
what does an enemy do to Mirio when they cannot harm him?
Yeah,
So when you
that's
have a
true.
power that is literally like you cannot injure me unless I let you, you have to do something with that character from just a power scaling standpoint, I guess.
Mirio comes back and Shigaraki pulls out the Prison Realm Rubrik's Cube.
He pulls out the prison realm and he gets someone with a shape shifting quirk to look like Night Eye. It makes him flashback and he gets caught.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's like you're too strong. We have to take you out of the
We have to
equation.
put you in the prison realm. Yeah, it's
Every
just like
everything looks bad in the final fight. Like everyone's dying. Endeavor's already dead. Deku has lost like every limb imaginable. And they're like, shit, how are we gonna win? And then just Gojo shows up and finishes the story in like 10 minutes.
Oh God, he could too. That would be hilarious.
Um, that's the thing, right? I mean, decay cannot spread through infinity. So like,
Right, you would just be
there-
fucked. Like, what would you? Nothing. You would just get stuck in limitless void and die.
yeah. Oh man. Oh, okay. I mean, that's the thing, right? With Gojo, his entire deal is that he's busted. Like that's literally
Right,
the.
and Mirio's not on Gojo's level by any means in terms of
Oh
busted in
no
relation to the
no.
story,
No
because
no
he's
not at
not.
all.
But he's strong enough that like, and MHA has been pretty good about this. Where like they'll introduce someone who's strong as shit, and then they'll give you some sort of reasoning as to why they can no longer participate. Be it
Yes.
All Might's injury, or oh Mirio ate the no quirk cookie and now he can't fight anymore. Or, and now they've got Endeavor who's like, maybe he's going to die here, or maybe
Mm,
he's going to have to go into exile because the whole world wants to string him up for being a horrible human. I don't know.
hmm.
But he's probably
Yeah.
out after this too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, even if he can still work or he can still fight, I don't think people would allow him to keep working as Zero because we've seen early in the story that your reputation is a huge thing for you when you're a pro hero. And Endeavor basically only has survived as a hero because he's so good at what he does and he has, you know, he's rude, but he doesn't have like a horrible record or whatever. But now,
Well, yeah, wasn't there a conversation with maybe Hawks where they were like, realistically, Endeavor probably should be number one because he does more work than anybody else, but he's just such a dick that
yeah,
nobody voted for him
yeah, pretty much. I
and
mean,
everyone
that's
likes
this
All
whole
Might
deal.
more? Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, but to the airy thing, because I was thinking about that. MHA has this really weird quality where it introduces things that just reek of, oh my God, this is gonna be horrible, and then it just isn't a problem for the most part. And I feel like Aerie is gonna be something like that too, where like we're gonna dread it for the next like 5 years, and then the story ends and she's never been an issue, and it's like, okay, scare me for nothing, Hori.
Yeah, it
Um,
does do that a lot. I don't know. The problem with Aerie is that she is like on this cusp where almost any way that you use her is bad. Because
yes.
like if
Almost.
you bring her in and she can control her powers and she can fix all your problems, that's bad. But also
Mm.
if you never touch on ever using her power again, that's also why is she even here?
Yeah, I
Why did
mean,
you even bring it up, you know?
the only way I can see that progressing is if they bring up that, oh, we could fix this whatever thing with Aries' power, but then they realize that using her power is related to her trauma and would, like, trigger her and, I don't know, spiral her into depression or whatnot. And then whoever is at the receipt would be at the receiving end of the fixage would have to make like that moral choice. Do I spiral her back into the darkest depths of despair so I can, grab my pen better again, or do I leave it? And I feel like that is like probably the only way you could integrate it into the story and also find a believable excuse as to why they wouldn't overuse her. Because if she can literally just use her quirk like Bakugo does or Todoroki, then golly gee, like she can just travel the world and fix every problem imaginable.
Right. Aerie almost becomes a Gojo level issue if she can use her power. Because
Yeah.
anything bad that has happened, like depending on how her powers work, I guess. Like I don't know if she can only do
Hmm.
it to people or what. I'm not 100% sure on exactly what her powers do, other than rewinding you.
Mm.
Um, but I mean, if you can't find a way to take her at least to the point where like her power is non-feasible, but you don't just abandon her plot thread entirely and just let it
Hmm.
dangle because that would be equally stupid. Because
Mm.
if the time skip is like, oh, it's been 60 years later and I'm a pro hero and I still can't use my left arm and Aries 45 years old and it's like she hasn't used her power once yet because that becomes equally dumb.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. It's a very fine line with a very problematic ability that he'll have to
Yeah.
thread when it comes to her.
I mean, one thing I definitely don't want to happen is for her to become the time travel machine that some people want her to become, but I also don't think
Oh,
that's
is
gonna
that for
happen.
time travel Bakugo?
But that's the thing, right? I don't think that's how a power works because the way I understood it is that her power essentially just pushes time through a living being backwards in like the dumbest terms possible. It's basically just like, oh, you're a living being, bet you're now a living being from some undetermined time ago. Um, of course, there is the whole thing of Chizaki's overhaul's comment of like, oh, if she trained her power, she could rewind a person back into a monkey, which is like, okay, so she can like rewind abstract concepts like evolution. Uh, all right.
Yeah, that is confusing because if you rewound a person all the way back, you would just rewind them to like a zygote. They wouldn't go back into the previous ancestors. You wouldn't rewind Deku so far back he became his father.
He just
Like,
she like touches Deku and he turns into his mom.
he just progressively goes back through his family tree. I do think we might see her kind of soon, only because of the single panel where Ito is like, Bakugo, you cannot move. You literally are dying.
Hmm.
You got hit in a vital spot. Like, you cannot fight
Yeah.
anymore. You're gonna die. Like, we have to help
Mm.
you immediately.
Yeah,
Um,
and Bakugo, of course, is not going to the chopping block.
no, no,
Like,
you can't. You can't just be like, oh yeah, Bakugo died here. Like,
oh
of
my
any
God, if that
character that I would believe it can't be Shoto, it can't be Bakugo, and it can't be Deku. Anybody else, I could buy
yeah,
it here, but those
yeah.
three, not a chance.
Oh my God, if Bakugo actually dies, Noxtaku's gonna be right.
Well, then he definitely can't die
Yeah.
because
Oh my
God help
God.
us if that happens.
Oh my God. But yeah, no, I also think we are at the cusp of seeing some airy stuff, just also because of that panel a couple of chapters ago where we saw that All Might is basically watching this national incident on TV with her on his lap. Which is like, talk about irresponsible, but um
Yeah, they don't take very good emotional care of this child.
I mean, to be fair, I think all the others do. I think just All Might is very, very, what do you call it? Immature because he's kind of not never had the chance to grow up properly. Because I mean, you know, he started becoming the next savior of the world at what, 14, and then at 18 he had to leave the country because he might get killed. So I do think it's mostly him because I mean they do make a big point out of him being like a shitty teacher and mostly a garbage mentor. Um, and he shows that as well. Whenever Deku asks him for advice, his advice is basically just feel it out, man. Just do like the whoosh, and Deku's like, "Oh my God, All Might, you're so smart."
You're
But
such a
also
genius. Wow.
this helps me not one bit. But thank you so much. But yeah, I guess we'll just have to see where it goes. But another thing I want to just mention to kind of circle it back to the actual chapter, the fucking hair dye thing. Um, in 2018, when I had 10 subs, I joined a live stream with Orphe and like a couple of other guys who at the time were active in the scene. And we did like a huge like live stream on Dobby's potential identity. And I remember we like fine-tooth combed through the manga. We found out that Dobby's first appearance is him walking out of like a beauty salon. And we like, our minds exploded and we're like, oh my God, that means he dyed his hair. He could be the Todoroki son. Oh my God. Like
Dun,
this was so far back we didn't even know that the final son was called Toya. We hadn't even seen Natsuo yet. And like to have that kind of come back and be like, yeah, I'm actually dyeing my hair, so that was almost relevant, I guess, is I don't know, it's cool. Like I think a lot of my enjoyment from this chapter also just came that because I've been active in this community and I've been on this train for so long, it just felt very rewarding to me, to finally see that I didn't waste all that time talking to people and be like, oh my God, did you see that one thing he said one time? Oh my God, Horikoshi goat, you know?
mm-hmm.
So, yeah, no, I definitely think it's been a ride and I'm very glad we're finally here. And I cannot wait for what comes next.
Yeah, no, it was good. It definitely didn't. It didn't fall as flat as I was thinking it would. It didn't blow me away, but it
Hmm.
it was very well executed. It's exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing where they're going to end up taking it from here. There's a lot of question marks that still need to get filled in.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean that's
and
the thing, right? Like, no, you go.
I was going to say that I think with how long he waited for this,
Hmm.
he stuck the landing as well as he could have.
Mm.
Because I have some
Yeah.
issues with it here and there.
Hmm.
But I think at this point, it would have been silly to ask him to do better with the reveal than he did. I think
Mm.
it was just good.
Yeah. I mean, there is of course the elephant in the room, which is that stupid black speech bubble. Like, What the
Yeah,
hell was that about?
yeah, that is almost what made me think that when they finally revealed it, like like both physically and audibly rolled my eyes at that black speech bubble. I was like, this is
Oh,
so
I
stupid.
I remember you tweeting that week actually.
Yeah, I was like,
Oh, that was
this is
fun.
not a mystery to anyone. So just dude, like lay
Mhm.
off it. Just have him not say anything at all. So I was super down on it, but he did surprisingly well for what I
Yeah.
was expecting it to be.
Yeah, and now comes the question, did he actually say his name in that speech bubble? Because now I'm almost thinking, what if there's another piece to this that he revealed to Hawks exclusively? Because there is, of course, the whole deal of Hawks having the recorder on him. And I almost cannot believe that that would be there only as like a, ooh, am I gonna reveal it now, guys? Kind of deal, you know?
Right.
It almost has to be something else, which, again, we've got the reveal, and here I am still theorizing about Dobby. It's so fucking fun.
Right. And I mean it certainly could be because he did not expect Hawks to survive that conversation. He
Hmm.
got saved at the last minute. So,
Hmm.
it could be.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, Hawks was really shook at that revelation, and I mean, Hawks doesn't know about Toya, that he supposedly died. So him just saying, "Oh, I'm Toya Todoroki," is like, "Oh, you're related to Endeavor, okay." But I don't think just oh, you share a very common Japanese last name with the number one hero would warrant that much shock because it shocked him more than the fact that he knew his name, which, is top secret government information. So I guess we'll see. I'm very curious. Like, I almost feel like we're gonna get like the Toya portion of his flashback now, as in like how it was living with Endeavor. And then we're gonna continue on with the story, and we'll only get like the Dobby portion of the flashback, like what actually happened to him at some later point. Because I feel like that's gonna remain like the second mystery. Like,
Right, because
what are his.
Shoto and Endeavor think Toya is dead, or they thought he was dead, right?
Yeah.
So it makes you wonder what kind of situation could he have supposedly died in that his family wouldn't have been able to verify if he was dead or not.
I mean, he could also be a Nomu created through the corpse of Toya Todoroki
We don't talk
that
about that.
believes.
We don't talk about
I
that.
mean, hey, okay. Honestly, if it turns out that Dabi is like a corpse Nomu that believes himself to be the original Toya, despite not actually being, that could be interesting. That could be like a cool Frankensteinian tale. But at that point, we're getting into Tumblr fanfic territory.
It's possible. I don't love the oh Nomus are like I liked Nomus back when they were like, yeah, we took that fat kid from Deku's flashback and he's a monster now.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
so much of like, ooh, the soul. It's your friend's soul. Like, shut up. I don't care. Like, that's
Mm,
not what I mean. Like, it was cool when they were monsters, and now they're kind of trying to make them not monsters. And like, Kurogiri's just a dude
hmm.
who I don't know. I don't like it.
I mean, okay, to be fair, our only benchmark is really the Kurogiri twist, which is just so hilariously bad because of the whole like, oh, read the spin-off to,
Yeah, make
understand
sure
this
you
super
read
cool.
our other thing to know what's
Yeah.
happening in our main product right now.
Yeah. I mean, I Hori is a young author, and I think he might have jumped the gun a bit on spin-offs because there's too many of them, and too many of them include information that should be in the main series. But what can we do at this point?
Yeah, I don't know. I am certainly leaning on the belief that he is the real Toya
Hmm.
because that's just the what I want it to be.
Hmm.
So I don't have any reason to discount that he could be a Nomu. I just don't want him to be for story purposes.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah, I just want him to be the thing that doesn't suck.
Lo
But we'll
lo
find out.
local man wants story to be good. Will
Yeah.
he survive the pogrom?
We'll find out pretty soon, I have a feeling. But it would be interesting if, like you said, that he was recruited into, whatever thing that Hawks was in when Endeavor decided he was no longer. Like, I don't know if maybe there's a lot of ways they could have orchestrated it, and any assumption on my part would just be borderline fanfic stuff. But like,
Yeah.
the wounds on his body are obviously burn wounds.
Hmm.
I guess that would probably be where Endeavor was like, "All right, you're not viable anymore because you almost killed yourself trying to use your power.
Hmm.
So I'm not going to use you anymore. I'm going to go to my next kid."
Yeah.
Although the TV speech this chapter made it sound like that wasn't the case.
Hmm.
Like the split with Toya did not happen until after Shoto finally had the quirk that he wanted.
Yeah, because that's the thing, right? The translator from MHA, Caleb, actually laid out a timeline for it, and it's actually kind of interesting. So first you have Endeavor trying really hard with Toya, and it not working because his fire is too strong for him to handle, and then like dropping Toya for multiple years and just, continuously making kids until he gets to Shoto. And then with Shoto, you have the incident with Shoto's mom. She gets sent to the hospital, and at some undetermined time after that, the Toya incident happens. So there was like a blank period of like 8 years where Toya was in the household, alive, but not Endeavor's like ultimate weapon, so to speak. So
Interesting.
it's
So
really going to be
basically, like
interesting.
the other siblings, then.
Yeah. Also, I like the implication, or I suppose the reveal, because it's explicitly shown in the small panel in this chapter, that he had red hair. He was born with red hair, but it turned white due to the stress. Because you see that little panel where he's like on the floor, and you see his red hair turning white from the roots. The good old Kaneki syndrome.
Hmm.
I like that because it has been like a long. I don't know how much you've been into the Dobby theories, but it was like a long-standing big inconsistency that because Toya had white hair in the manga but red hair in the anime, and now we know he had both. So I guess the joke's on us.
Now we know.
Yeah.
Now we know.
So yeah, the timeline is going to be interesting. Because that's the other thing then. Does Rei even know what happened to Kid Toya? Like, she must
It.
have, because, I mean, she can't be like, oh yeah, where's my other son? You
Yeah.
know?
Well, I mean, Shoto never came to visit her. Um,
That's also true.
before that point. But they did make a whole thing too of being like, turn the TV off in her room.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want her to see what's on the TV right now because it's her kid.
Mm-hmm.
But she may have just thought he was dead. Also, it doesn't sound like
Maybe.
Endeavor ever went to visit her either.
Well, he is literally not allowed to, so.
Well, yeah, but so I guess the only one that could have told her would be the daughter.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like visiting mom is not a weekend activity for the Todorokis, basically.
Yeah, at least not prior to the sports festival. I believe at some point, Shoto says that he visits his mom every weekend after he's like has his epiphany, like, oh my God, if I use my fire, it's not actually my dad's fire, it's mine.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Once he
yeah.
starts going, they start bringing her in. But it sounds to me like before that point, it wasn't a super frequent occurrence
Oh no,
for the
definitely
family.
not.
Um,
Yeah. But
so
that's it. Yeah, that's interesting. So I wonder how much Ray knows. And I wonder like where, because that's the other thing, right? She was like on the cusp of being recovered, and now this happens. Like,
right, yeah. I
oh,
That woman's life sucks.
oh man, I saw someone on Twitter say that she's like in the fourth floor and she's dangerously close to a window, to an open window, and I'm like, oh, don't give me thoughts.
Ooh, that would not be good.
Oh, that would not. I mean, it'd be a story direction that it could take, but ooh, man, that would that would make this so much more tragic. I mean, the entire Todoroki situation is horrific, and genuinely my favorite subplot in MHA, like easily. But I think that's not really a brave statement. So
Well, no, I mean that's you know,
it's kind of the only like super salient subplot. Let's be real.
yeah. Local man likes only deep subplot in series about punches. Okay,
The truth
um,
has come out. But yeah, no. Um, Anything else on MHA before we move on?
I don't think so. Other than I don't think the mom will have time to get out a window because there's an entire staff of hospital people sprinting toward her room.
That's true. I suppose it depends on how much she listens to Toya's speech. If she's like, "Oh my God, Toya, I'm out."
Oh my God, it's
Then
Toya. Done. Just up and out.
yeah.
So maybe.
I saw someone suggest though that the flowers that she's been getting were not actually from Endeavor but from Toya. That would be interesting as
That would
well.
be very interesting and very fucked up.
Yeah, and it would be just another nail in Endeavor's coffin because like that those flowers were kind of like the big stake upon, which his redemption was built. And if that wasn't him, oh man, that kind of puts us in a weird spot as well because then we've been rooting for someone who has not been trying as hard as we thought he was.
Yeah,
Um,
although I mean, I don't think him not necessarily giving her the flowers is that big of an indictment. Um,
That's also true.
I mean, he could simply just view it as that relationship is unsalvageable, and that by not interacting with her, he could be giving her more peace than doing so.
Yeah.
Because
I,
it might be a bad look had past abuser forcing his way back into your life. Um,
that's true. That's true. And
that
I
he
mean,
may just say, I won't ever go near her again unless she wants to, and I won't put her in that
mhm,
position unless she wants to be. So to me, I don't think that would necessarily reflect too badly on him. That would be
mhm.
more interesting to me from a prospect of Toya still, is at least semi fond of his mother.
Yeah, because of course Endeavor does have a attitude towards his redemption that is kind of incongruous with the flower thing because I mean the man is literally financing the building of a house where his family can live separate from him. So then him, as you said, like trying to get back closer to Ray is kind of not aligning with that all that well. So, we might be onto something here. Um, and as for Dobby's or Toya's relationship with his mom, I did find it interesting that when he holds his like TV speech, he says, Endeavor forced himself upon the woman that would become my mother, and that's the only time he mentions her, which is like, through like two layers of abstraction. Like
Right,
the
and yeah,
woman
he
that,
specifically at no point blames her for like not protecting him.
yeah.
And again, that could be from a sense of one, he is still fairly fond of her, or two, he is uh, just being pragmatic in that
Mm,
telling them that, oh, my mom didn't help me and that no one cares.
mm,
Endeavor is the guy that's going to cause the impact that he's looking for. So if he is
yeah.
as emotionally detached from it as we thought he might be, it may just be that pinning it entirely upon Endeavor makes it more palatable. Not that the mother is inherently at fault in any capacity other than burning Shoto. That is her fault.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And
Um,
I mean, the extended flashback that we saw in joint training, I believe, we even see that she basically immediately regrets it and tries to fix his wound with her ice powers. Um, which is also interesting because, like, I've seen people say that Choto's scar is not necessarily a burn scar; it's a frostbite scar because of her overreaction. Which I'm not. My medical training did not go that far, so
Also, it's
I
a
can't.
drawing by a guy who's not a doctor. So it's
That's
kind
true,
of
but it's
whatever he tells us it is, but it definitely
that's
doesn't look like what you would think. It certainly looks like it could be that the skin had been ripped off by the ice.
Yeah, and I mean to be fair, Hori does seem to research this stuff a lot. Like, if you look at old interviews and also his comments, you realize when he wants to draw something, he researches it very well. I think right before he did like Shigaraki's backstory, he was binging like horror movies and stuff like that to get like the vibe right. So I could believe that he like looked it up on Wikipedia, I
But
guess.
also after he gets burned, didn't Endeavor immediately rush into the room?
That we don't know actually.
I could have sworn that after it happened, there was a panel at some point in the beginning of Endeavor like what the hell happened?
I can't remember that.
Someone
I
did.
have to
Maybe it
say.
wasn't him then, but all I can think of is like in a house of people with fire powers, how do you end up ripping someone's skin off with a lot of ice? Instead of them being like,
That's
"Oh my god, let's melt this ice off his face and warm his skin
that's
back up."
that's true, but I mean, okay, if we like go with this imaginary situation and we really try to like reconstruct this cartoon series scene, we have Ray on the phone with what's probably a family friend explaining her situation in like, a panicked voice. So probably either Endeavor is gone for work or somewhere where he supposedly can't hear them. So I could imagine that she has enough time to, in her panic, do that additional bit of damage. But again, at this point, we're writing Hori's story for him.
Yeah,
You
we're
know,
we're jumping down too many rabbit holes.
Horikoshi, if you're watching, because of course you are.
Obviously,
I
you
know,
watch this show.
yeah, I know you have a position open for an editor. Hire me.
You know what, Horikoshi, if you want to be our first guest on the show, and you want to come in and you want to tell us exactly what happened on an exclusive interview as to what happened in that night where Shoto got burned, come on the show.
Oh, but I unironically would love to interview Horikoshi. Like, he just seems like such an interesting guy to ask a couple of questions, because I don't know what it is about his writing or like his life story, but so much of it seems interesting to me. Like, of someone that seems way closer to like our generation than a lot of like famous mangakas seem to be. Maybe that's just because I grew up on a lot of the older generations where you have people like Kishimoto or, Toriyama who are boomers. So, you know,
Is Kishi a boomer? I thought he was on the younger side.
isn't he like 45 now?
It's not you're not a boomer at 45. He is 45. Yeah. He was born.
Okay.
Actually, I guess he's born in 74. He's a Gen Xer.
Okay, you got to remember that all those generations are like American centric, and for the rest of the world, they are a bit later, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're like Toriyama is a full on boomer.
Oh,
Like
yes,
like
Toriyama.
Toriyama is a man. The man's a relic.
Yeah. And you have Oda, who's a neat. Like, I swear to God, I've never seen a picture of Oda where he has like a clean shirt on. It's kind of gross.
I don't think I've ever seen a picture of Oda. Is it just like a fluffy looking? Okay, yeah,
It,
no, I see it. Oh
yeah.
God, yeah.
Also, be careful because the first picture on Google is not him. Because the first picture on Google is Eiji Aonuma, the creator of Zelda. Because there's a German article that once mistakenly put that picture up as Oda, and for some reason it's like the most searched picture of him. So
Oh, the one with
that
the
mistake,
the one with the glasses.
yeah, and with
Yeah.
like a grayer beard and
Mm-hmm.
hair and whatnot. Yeah, yeah,
No, this is definitely him.
yeah.
Yeah, he is kind of a schlubby looking dude, ain't he?
I mean, the man, we discussed it last week. The man just draws One Piece. Like
Yeah,
that's
well,
all he
you don't
does.
have time for anything else if you're drawing One Piece. So
Yeah. I mean, hey, why wash your clothes when you're busy overcrowding panels and collages? I'm
where
so mean on this
he doesn't have
podcast. I'm
time
so sorry.
to do any of that stuff, man. He's too
I'm
busy drawing
sorry.
every single character in his entire series on one page and still fitting 6 panels on it.
He's busy looking at his designs and being like, how can I make this look stupid? I feel like we're gonna have to like introduce like a segment specifically just so we can localize all the One Piece slander there so people can skip it.
Yeah, we need like a 15-minute just vent the slander window. It'll
The
always be
slander.
Naruto and One Piece, but it'll be there.
I mean, to be fair, occasionally it might be Boruto or Samurai 8.
That's true. It's always Kishimoto or One Piece.
Oh my God. I mean, we give the old guard of manga such a hard time. And then there's Kubo who's just chilling.
Kubo, goat. What a legend that man is.
Also, but have you noticed it's like we're like 50 minutes in and we've talked about one series and how shit One Piece is.
That is not true. We spent 36 seconds on Chainsaw Man at the very beginning of
Oh,
this.
that's true. All right, closing statement on MHA for me. This chapter had some amazing quotes. Dance with your son in hell, Enji Todoroki, might be top one quote from MHA. And it's edgy as hell, but I don't care.
Okay. My last statement on MHA is pretty good. You should read it. Okay, so let's move on to the next thing we're going to talk about for an hour and a half. Jujutsu
Yes.
Kaisen. We haven't brought that up this
Uh,
week.
okay. Where does it rank for you?
Probably third.
Mm-hmm.
Only because it's just more. It did have some like an exciting moment, like especially toward the end.
Mm-hmm.
But it feels like it's starting to get a little humdrum. Every chapter
Mm.
being, oh, we're in this fight. This character's got a sick new power. It feels
Mm-hmm.
like they've done that every single time now.
Yeah.
And I do think the Mahito fight is running out of steam. Like you said, it's the longest fight in the series, not
Mm-hmm.
by a close margin either.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it is kind of running out. Obviously, I don't think Mahito's not gonna die here.
Mm-hmm.
At least I assume he's not going to. It would be very interesting if he did. But I don't see that happening. I don't see Toto dying here, but I guess maybe he could. And obviously Yuji is the protagonist, so he's not going to die here.
Mm. Yeah, I think Jujutsu Kaisen out of the ones I read this week, like out of my weekly reads, might have been my least favorite. Just because, as you said, it was just more action. And I don't mind action, especially not Jujutsu Kaisen action. But whereas last week's had like the little bit of an emotional core and then some action, this was just straight action throughout the entire chapter. And I wasn't as engaged as I was before, but also, to be fair, I do think this will remain a one-time occurrence with this chapter because I mean, next chapter we're gonna get into Mahito's domain, and I feel after that there's nowhere the fight can go after that because we've established earlier in the story that Mahito can cast his domain exactly once, and after that he's exhausted.
Right.
Uh, so this is probably his final gamble.
Yeah, and I mean,
Uh,
there's place for action, like that for an all action chapter. I think it's fine.
mm-hmm,
And I think the fighting in this chapter was good, because I usually
mm-hmm.
it sounds like I shit on action chapters a lot, because I'm always like, oh, it's just fighting. Um, but like, there's a place for really good action. I really liked the fighting in this, like
Mm-hmm.
Toto charging rocks with cursed energy so he can boogie woogie with them and stuff was super
Oh
cool.
yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
Um, Pretty much everything Toto does is cool all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think we're just reaching the point now where the emotional reaction of what happened to Nanami and Nobara is kind of gone.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not gone, but it's not as fired up about it anymore. And it's sort of become Goku and Frieza are still fighting on Namek. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's similar to my criticism of My Hero Academia, where it's just sort of become punch, 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 punch. Is it's like
Mm-hmm.
the likelihood for me at least with action in a shonen is there's two ways that you can really do it that will hook me. Is that it's one, it's a character who more than likely will not suffer direct consequence from it, but it's the result of something emotional. So that would be
Mm-hmm.
this fight in this instance, because right after Nobara goes down, Toto brings him back. You get the big swell of excitement and emotion, and it's time to kick the shit out of Mahito for
Mm-hmm.
us, for the audience, right? It's almost like
Mm-hmm.
Giorno and Diavolo. That was not a fight.
Mm-hmm.
That was just Giorno beating the ever-loving piss out of Diavolo and making him die forever.
Mm-hmm.
But it was
Mm-hmm.
vindicating for us. It was
Mm-hmm.
just to make us feel better. And that's
Mm-hmm.
sort of where this fight is too. And I think that you can only do that for so long.
Mm-hmm.
Because, it's like Anakin and Obi-Wan and Mustafar. We're like, oh no, the best buddies, and then they fight for like 37 minutes. And it's like, oh my god, this needs to be done. I don't care anymore.
Yeah,
And I,
yeah.
I haven't hit that point yet, but I'm getting there.
Yeah, definitely. I think this and the next like two or three chapters need to be the end of this fight because and I definitely think like the actual combat portion of the fight needs to end next chapter. Which whatever crazy maneuver Marito is pulling, um, this needs to kind of climax it out because the Shibuya arc has already had so many peaks. This is really weird to say, but I almost think like it's over peaking. Like it's
Yeah,
trying to do too
no, I get what
much.
you're saying.
Because like we had the crazy Gojo fight, followed by, Toji coming back, followed by Sukuna's rampage, followed by a couple of major deaths, followed by, the rematch between the main villain and the main character. And I feel like we're getting to a point where the arc can't really do much more in this framework to up the ante. So at this
Right. Well,
point, it
the
really
thing is
needs
with
to
all of
end.
those events is each one of those could have been an arc carrying moment in a solo arc on its own.
That's true, which honestly gives me a lot of hype for whatever comes next because I mean this is this is Jujutsu Kaisen's first like climax arc. And if we go by the shonen rules, it'll have like at least one, probably two more, which is like Jesus, where are we going?
Right. Um, and so you almost do get a little fatigued because like each one of those things, you know, Gojo's gone. The arc could have literally ended right there. Gojo's
Yes.
gone. What do we do? Or you keep going and Sukuna's ran, and it could have literally right there. Sukuna could have just fucking killed everybody, and then Yuji
Yeah.
could have just been sulking about that, and the arc could have ended right there. There's
Yeah.
so many big moments that like could have been the wham shot of an individual arc, and they're all in this one. That after a
Hmm.
while, you're just like, I need a break.
Yeah.
I
That
need I
I
need a
want a
break.
low-key arc. I want a low-key arc again. I
Yeah, I just want
want
them hanging out for a little bit, just for a little bit.
Yeah, I want that chap. I want again like a chapter like where they try to set Yuji up with that one chick he protected in like middle school from bullies or whatever that was. But yeah, that's the thing. I'm almost wondering like how the volume releases are handling it because for example in JoJo, the volume releases and the like Weekly Shonen Jump releases have different chapter titles and are separated into different arcs. Funnily enough.
Huh? I didn't know
Um,
that.
yeah, in basically in the weekly Shonen Jump releases of like, for example, Part 5, all the chapters had unique names, and then in the volumes they were renamed to White Album Part 1, White Album Part 2, and whatever. And here I feel like we could almost go for the opposite, where like the entire arc is just called the Shibuya arc, part 39. And it could get like, separated into mini arcs almost. Because it really does feel like there's multiple arcs here that all have their own climax.
Yeah, I mean, every main character. I still think Nobara's surviving this. Don't think she's dead. Um,
Hmm.
so then you have Yuji, her, and Megumi, who are all kind of certainly changed coming out of this. They all are going to have some stuff to confront. I don't
Hmm.
know if Megumi will find out that was his. I don't even remember. Did he know that was his dad? He didn't, right?
I think he thought about it because he did, like, he had a moment like, who was that? And then he remembers, like, Naobito Zenin being like, just a forgotten spirit. And he, like, thinks about it for a second, then he goes, no, no time to think. The typical
Hmm.
anime code for, yeah, no, you're not getting this now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he's going to have to probably wrestle with that at some point. Um,
Yeah.
and just like,
Although,
because Megumi's backstory circumstance is more pressing for him than what he's got going on right now. Of the three, what he has going on in the present is probably the least interesting,
hmm,
other than what does Sukuna want his power for? Because he's a
yeah.
little bit stronger than Yuji and Nobara. He's kind of ahead of them. He's their Sasuke,
Hmm.
basically.
Yeah.
He's just
I
is
mean,
a
yeah, because he's like the only character out of the main trio who has like a super strong inherited technique,
right,
right?
and he's got a partially functional domain.
Hmm.
He's just stronger than them.
Yeah.
Um, and so he doesn't really need to worry about having an arc where it's like, I'm not strong enough, because like he could have one because just the way that the power scale is going to tip after this arc if Gojo stays gone.
Hmm.
But it would be less interesting involving him than it would for anyone else. I think probably after this, there's going to be obviously a lot from Yuji where he's going to kind of have to start coming to terms with. He's going to have to start growing up a little bit because
Yes.
he can't be
Yes.
the happy silly idiot with the big old monster in him that he just like ignores because
Hmm.
he's getting too many situations now where he's aware of what Sukuna can do and that Sukuna is not his friend. And it's
Hmm.
not because Yuji always kind of struck me as like, I'm gonna win you over, buddy, one of these days.
Hmm.
And I think after Shibuya, he should be very aware that that's not the case. Um,
Yeah.
because I've no Naruto Kurama stuff here. That dude
Yeah.
hates you and he doesn't care about you at all.
Hmm.
Um, and then Nobara, I think that is gonna have to wrestle a lot, both with like one, I don't think she's getting that eye back. So
Hmm.
I think that she's going to have a little bit of I don't know. I don't want to say growing up on that front either because I don't think it's immature to find yourself pretty or whatever. But I don't know. I think she's just gonna have a self-image issue going forward that she might
Oh yeah.
come to terms with because now she lost the eye. She's probably gonna have either an eye patch or some sort of covering on that side of her face.
Hmm.
Um, and then also I think she is the one of all of them that probably needs to start leveling up a little bit
Yes.
power wise.
Yes, I'd agree with that. And also, I mean, her losing her eye, if Gege wants to really go um full realism with it, you could actually have an arc where or like a character arc where she has to come to terms with the fact that she has to kind of relearn a lot of her basic moves because
Because no
no
depth
depth
perception.
perception.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, losing a limb is like, anime drama 101. And sometimes they do show that, oh no, I can't do things anymore because I lost my seventh leg or whatever. Um, so with her, it could be like, oh, I have trouble aiming with my nails because I can't see depths anymore. That could be cool.
Yeah,
Like
because I
that
mean,
could.
her powers were pretty heavily projectile based. They're not
Hmm.
100% projectile, but they're more projectile than anything else.
Yeah.
Um,
And and I mean, even if you're not projectile based, if you don't have homing attacks, you need two eyes. Like,
right. Yeah. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. I think that she definitely has the most to do after this arc when it comes to catching up with everyone else. Because I do think at this
hmm,
point, Yuji is just more dangerous in a fight than her.
hmm, yes.
I mean, I think she is a better fighter than he is, but he's
Mm-hmm.
just, he's got the whole raw power shonen hero shtick going on, or he's just got too
Mm-hmm.
much behind him. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and she's gonna have to level that up a little bit. I think Megumi is probably gonna have to start coming to terms with the fact that his life is shitty, and the way
Yeah.
that it has gone is shitty, and the stuff that happened to him before he was even really old enough to remember or know it was shitty was actually really shitty.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it would be interesting if there's some kind of discussion between the Zenin girl and him after this
Mm-hmm.
about just like, you know, tell me about this stuff because he was a little kid. You
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
I also wonder how the Zenin family will deal with that now, because of course the big reason why Megumi is a Fushiguro and not a Zenin is because he was basically just given to Gojo, right?
right, because
So
Gojo just said, nope, I make the rules. So,
yeah. So now that he's gone, that could be interesting. If the Zenin family is like, hey, you're the inheritor of the Ten Shadows technique, our most like important inherited ability, you come over here and you become like our weapon. Um, yeah, that could be kind of interesting, because then he would suffer from Gojo's loss the same way Yuji will probably suffer from it, in the sense of that Jujutsu Society will turn on him and be like, yeah, okay, Gojo's gone, so now we can assassinate you, right?
right, yeah, I mean, I still don't know. I don't know if they're going to go that way. I think they could. They totally could.
Yeah.
Um, but I almost think with Gojo gone, you need him.
I
The more
mean,
I've
I
been
should.
thinking about it is like with Gojo gone, you have nobody that can hurt Mahito. Like Toto cannot hurt him.
Hmm.
That he makes it extremely clear, even when he gets black flashed in the face, that like that doesn't do anything to me. The
Hmm.
only people that can hurt him are Nobara, who, if she lives, is out of commission for at least a while,
Hmm.
and Yuji.
That's true. That's true. Maybe that'll be like his saving grace. Because I do think that it's at least gonna come up. Because if I remember correctly, the resolution to the "oh, will they kill Yuji" plotline was they won't, because Gojo is a literal brick wall that you cannot climb, and you can't oppose him even if you have all of Jutsu Society behind you.
Well, right. Well, because originally, when everyone thought he was dead,
Hmm.
Gojo was like, they intentionally sent me away so that
Yeah.
they could go into a situation where they could get Yuji killed.
Hmm.
And I can't decide if I'm going to execute all of them for doing that to me yet.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because
Such a
that's
raw
just kind of what
moment.
it is. It's like, because like we said before, Gojo plays by the rules because he chooses to.
Hmm.
And if at any point he chooses not to, you can't do anything about it.
Yes.
Um,
Which is God, I keep gushing about it, but that's such a strong character, like, core. I love it so much.
oh yeah, it's so great. I mean, he's the coolest fucking character like on the planet.
Yeah.
He's
I
the
mean,
coolest
yeah,
kind of character.
we've been saying that for like 5 weeks now,
I know
man.
every single episode we have to have the at least a little bit where we gush about how cool Gojo is. But
I
like
mean,
his
that's
whole
so
thing,
cool.
especially I mean it's also true with Megumi, like you said too, is that you know, he plays by the rules and he kind of like lets you do what you want until you push him too far.
Hmm.
And if he gets to the point where he says you knock it off now, you just do what he says because
Hmm.
you don't have an option otherwise. Like
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
literally because the anime is just now at the part where Yuji supposedly dies and Sukuna heals him. Um,
Hmm.
and he's literally having a conversation with the guy of, you know, I'm not sure, maybe I'll just kill them all now because I'm sick of it. And then the guy
Yeah.
was like, well, why would you want to do that? And he said, Jujutsu Society sucks. The sorcerers suck. They're all just corrupt old men who don't care about
Hmm.
anything. Um, and I want to make it better. And that's why I wanted
Hmm.
to be a teacher, so I could teach the next generation to treat it better and, not be shitty politicians, basically.
Hmm.
But that's interlaced with him saying, the only reason I really haven't killed everyone yet is because that wouldn't bring about the kind of change that I want. So
Yeah.
literally at any point he could. And he's aware that he could, and everyone is kind
Yeah.
of aware that he could.
Yeah, he's basically like All Might if All Might were a sociopath. Like, that's it. It's like, for me, right now, killing all of you would be disadvantageous to my goals, so I'm not doing it.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
he is very much because All Might he's like All Might if All Might was cynical, because All Might's all about the
Yes.
system.
Mm-hmm.
Hero side is great, and as much as it's not, All
Mm-hmm.
Might is very much all about the system, and the reasons it's not, to be fair, are probably at least 50% his fault. Um,
Yeah.
at least a little. Um,
Uh-huh.
and Gojo is he's All Might in terms of his untouchable status, but when it comes to the system, he's very much just begrudgingly there because
Mm-hmm.
he wants to overhaul it, but he can't just with pure power.
Yes, which is
So
actually really cool if you think about it.
yeah, I like it a lot because it's you're constantly riding the line, at least with him, of like I'm letting you go for now, but
Mm-hmm.
on one hand, like you can't be super corrupt and awful because if at any point I decide it's done, and you
Mm-hmm.
cannot do anything about it. And then also but we can't make it better if we don't have wholehearted, genuine desire to make it better. So
Mm-hmm.
like he acknowledges that he could rip it all down and sometimes wants to, but that it wouldn't be for the greater good if he did that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's just very interesting that there's this character who like just kind of makes the rules when he decides he wants to make them, but is willing
Mm-hmm.
to let everybody else kind of do their own petty squabbles until he decides enough is enough.
Yeah, yeah, because no, what I was gonna say. Oh, yeah. I think that's also interesting if you compare it to like Ghetto's solution to Jujutsu Society, right? Like his solution basically being we just turned the entire world into Jujutsu Society and then we figured out from there because Jujutsu sources are inherently superior or whatnot. Like that is a very radical and a much more, I guess, edgy solution to this. Whereas Gojo does take the more mature approach, where he's like, okay, I'm going to change the system through influencing the next generation that will make up the system, which is surprisingly mature for a guy who keeps being called, a child with a nuke, basically.
Right. Yeah. Well, the thing that always I never really got this like the stance that Gojo necessarily disagreed with the idea that Jujutsu sorcerers are better than regular people. Not that
Hmm.
he's like racist, but just that like it never occurred to me that he was gonna give the shonen like everyone is someone speech to Geto, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah.
But it just kind of hit me more. He protects people because it's what you're supposed to do,
Hmm.
and because Gojo and Geto are very similar people, except Gojo feels like he is interested in doing the right thing for the right reason,
Hmm.
or whereas Geto may be doing the wrong thing for the right reason,
Hmm.
and that fundamental little split puts them with completely different ideologies, and
Hmm.
basically it's why Gojo kills him.
Yeah. And I'm actually super interested if we ever get to see what happened to the Gojo family. Because we know he was inside of like a big flourishing clan, but we also know that by the time the story happens, he's the only member left. They mentioned that at one point, that the Gojo family is a one-man family at this point. But we know there were more of them because when we see Gojo as a baby, we see him, with his parent and with supposedly an entourage of the rest of the Gojo clan. So I really wonder what happened there.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I don't know. Well, I mean, we're going again. We're very off topic because Gojo is out of the picture for at least a while now. But
Oh, come on. It's Jujutsu Kaisen. It's
I know
basically
you
the
can't
Gojo
talk about
show.
Jujutsu Kaisen without talking about him. That's just how cool he is.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
I have people on my timeline every week who say like, "Oh, this episode of the Gojo show was pretty good."
I mean, that's what Jujutsu Kaisen is for a long time. I don't think, to be fair, I don't think it ever actually moves out of that necessarily. I think it
Yeah.
probably will after Shibuya because I don't think he's going to come back super quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, every other character grows into their own a lot because Gojo is never the center of attention. He just kind of
Mm-hmm.
does his thing and then it goes back to the kids, you know. Like we're about to
Mm-hmm.
have the whole arc, the joint training, Kyoto, Tokyo, whatever they
Yeah.
call it, the sports festival for Jujutsu sorcerers.
Yeah.
They're about to have that, and Gojo doesn't really do anything
Uh-huh.
until right at the end because the whole point of
Yeah.
that arc is like we have to do all this stuff without Gojo being able to do anything,
Mm.
and it's almost like he's Jotaro in part four. Like he doesn't do anything really, but when he does something, it's really big and it's really impactful, and everyone loves it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, Gojo's a little bit more involved than he was, but that's generally is that like he's your breakout character. I mean,
Yeah, I mean
you can't not have him
yeah, I mean when you
carry
look
it.
at like if you look at like YouTube and you search Jujutsu Kaisen, the amount of thumbnails that have like Yuji on them is like not even half of the amount of them that have Gojo on them.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Yeah,
Like,
like I have made what, 4 videos on Jujutsu Kaisen now, and I don't have a single Yuji thumbnail. It's all Gojo.
right? Well, yeah, because of course it is.
Yeah.
Because Gojo Yuji is interesting as a protagonist in that he is a pretty pure fish out of water protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't know anything about the Jujutsu world, and neither do we. And so we learn about it through him learning about it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Gojo is the Jujutsu world, right? So all the interesting, cool, unique stuff about that world is embodied in this character that can use the power of that world to do anything, basically.
Mm-hmm.
He's like as
Yeah.
close as you get to God in that world.
Literally, I mean, the man controls space.
The
I
man
wouldn't be
controls
surprised.
space. He got stabbed in the forehead and didn't die and just got stronger.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, we still don't know what the Six Eyes do, and I wouldn't be surprised if Six Eyes, like, I don't know, stop time or whatever. Or, like, he perceives things so fast that it is like time has stopped. Because, I mean, at that point, at this point, it really doesn't matter what other powers Gojo has because he's already past the limit of busted, right?
Oh yeah,
Like,
there's no other technique that can do anything to him, which is why the prison realm was needed to get him out of the story.
yeah, yeah.
Because you can't have an intimidating villain when they're up against this guy that can do anything.
Yeah.
It was kind of like the same reason that All Might eventually had to go, is that
Hmm.
they handled it a little bit better with All Might because like they showed early on with the Nomu that like they can bring something that can at least threaten him. It didn't do a very
Hmm.
good job, but it could threaten him at the very least. Whereas Gojo, there's absolutely nothing in the world that can do that,
Hmm.
or even close to that. I mean, what do they say that Jugo is what 9 Sakuna fingers,
Yeah, 9 or 8.
8 or
A low
9, yeah.
estimate.
And Gojo just smacks him like nothing.
Yeah. I mean, isn't it in chapter 3 that Gojo literally says he could beat full power Sukuna,
Right, and a
albeit
lot
with a
of
bit of
people
effort?
look into that and they're like, well, I think he hesitated, and I was like, no,
No.
he could win. Like,
Yeah.
I've seen a
The
lot of
whole
people
thing
say
is,
that they don't know that he could win, or if he is unsure of his ability to do it, and it just doesn't strike me as a Satoru Gojo trait to be unsure of yourself.
yeah, I mean that's the whole thing, right? Are you the strongest because you're Satoru Gojo, or are you Satoru Gojo because you're the strongest? It's like the two things are interlinked. His
Right.
entire identity is being this monolith in the Jujutsu Society. And even Sukuna probably can't kill him. He would probably hurt him because I mean the way he says it, like, oh, it would be a bit exhausting, which in Gojo's term probably means, oh, I'd lose a bit of blood.
I have to try,
Um,
you know, because I see no evidence that ever since he got his power upgrade after the flashback that he's ever had to actually exert himself.
Yeah,
Because
that's
even when
true.
fighting like Jugo, he only turns his domain on to turn Jugo's off,
Yeah,
so that he
and
can't
on
get because domains allow you to hacks past limitless.
yeah,
Um, so like he didn't need to do that. He just did it
yeah.
because he needed to overpower Jugo's.
I mean,
And
honestly, really, the only reason Jugo activates his domain is uh, because Gojo provokes him because he wants to teach Yuji about domains.
right,
Like,
he's beating the pretty much the shit out of the strongest curse we've seen up to that point,
uh-huh.
other than Sukuna, and he's doing it like while he's got Yuji on his back like Yoda. Doesn't he also in that fight vanish and grab Yuji and bring him with him
Yeah, he
before
teleports.
Jugo can like react?
Yeah, yeah, he teleports. Like
It's
it's oh my God, what a character.
He's
Also,
so ridiculous.
I am so excited for the Gojo fight next week in the
Oh, it's gonna be
anime.
so good. This is gonna be the first episode where the Jujutsu Kaisen anime kind of starts growing its beard a little bit.
Oh yeah, definitely. I hope it blows up. Like I saw that actually bits of the episode somehow leaked because there's screenshots of it. Have you seen them?
I have not.
Okay, good because that's like a shitty thing to get spoiled on. But I saw a couple of them like in really low quality, and oh man, oh man, I hope it looks anything like that.
I mean, if this fight doesn't blow up the JJK anime, there's only a couple more that could. Because this fight is
Yeah.
like oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm expecting at least one episode because I mean, this is a prestige Shonen Jump anime series with a very talented staff behind it. I expect like at least one episode to be the prestige episode where like they throw everything at it in a bid to recreate Demon Slayer success. Um, and I'm thinking the only candidates for that is next week or the Mahito fight. Like, there's really nothing else that has that. Maybe the Toto fight, but then I couldn't
I
single out.
I think it
Yeah,
will probably end up being the Mahito fight because there's a lot of emotion and stress for Yuji behind that fight.
yeah,
Whereas the
yeah.
Gojo fight is like pure cool factor of
Mm-hmm.
like a casual Gojo just like backhanding this dude who killed all those people in the cafe and was like, I'm gonna kill him for you now. And then he
Mm-hmm.
just gets smacked by like it reinforces how strong Gojo really is because the only fight he's had so far in the anime was that like 10-second scuffle with Sukuna where he
Ah, but
just
it
kind
looked
of
better than
smacks
most
him.
anime.
Oh god, I know that fight alone is cool. But he just
Uh,
kind of smacks him around a little bit and that's all you get cuz
mm,
Yuji took over. And then you get
yeah.
that realization that like Sukuna also wanted to switch back, so that's why Yuji could just do it on a blink like that, and he can't just do it normally.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to be interesting to see people's reaction to him finally kind of cutting loose, because we're going to see the eyes next week. He's going to finally
Yes.
take the bandana off his eyes and stuff. Oh man,
We're finally gonna have the definitive answer. Is it unlimited void or immeasurable void?
I know. I call it both all the time, and I just need to
Yeah,
know what the
me
anime says.
too. Well, because the translator himself also doesn't seem to be able to choose because it's called Unlimited Void in the volume releases, but it's called Immeasurable Void in the weekly release. So like, man, but I mean, the Jujutsu Kaisen translation
That was I'm
is a
glad they're
whole
fixing it in the volumes because that was rough for a while.
yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, they fixed it in the volumes, but I'm still really I'm bummed. Like I'm not even angry. I'm just bummed that a series that already has such a weird flow of information suffered from that for so long because I feel like it really stifled some of its success for a long time.
I would probably agree, at least in the West. I mean, that
Hmm.
plus you had a lot of people read on the Shonen app or with, fan subs. So I guess if you read with
Yeah.
fan subs, it doesn't affect you. But then, like, on the Shonen app for a long time, the entire center portion of the series was not on there.
Yeah.
You had,
Yeah,
like, I think it
it's so
only went to,
weird.
like, chapter, I don't even know, but then there was, like, something like a 30 or 40 long, chapter long gap in the middle. So
Yeah.
if you wanted to pick it
Yeah.
up, you couldn't.
Yeah, and then you have that, and then you have the when it was finally translated, like all the terms were switched around.
Yeah, because
And
they started with Curse Energy, and then they went to like whatever they called it,
Juryoku.
Juryoku, yeah, and then they just kept it in English, and
Yeah.
they changed it from like a like localized variant name for it, like Jujutsu Sorcery or whatever, and they just started keeping a written out English spelling of the actual Japanese word, and people
Yeah,
had to
yeah.
relearn all of it to know what they were talking about.
Yeah, it was so annoying. And then, now of course you have the whole deal where if you ask the translator about it on Twitter, you just get blocked, which is like,
Hmm.
nice guy. But I mean, I don't want to judge too hard because I don't know what kind of pressures and whatever they have to deal with. But I do think that the Jujutsu Kaisen translation is in an unfortunate state that is slowly getting fixed. But, you know, again, Gege Akutami's flow of information is already very hard to swallow sometimes, and to have that be exasperated by translations that can't seem to decide if it's Juryoku or cursed energy or curse energy, it's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate.
Yeah, I am at the point where I've kind of just chosen which one sounds the best to
Hmm.
me, and that's the one I use
Yeah.
until I get confirmation otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the single most succinct canon we're ever going to get to the language of Jujutsu Kaisen is going to be the anime. Like, whatever the crunchy subs go for. Which honestly kind of scares me because uh they translated Megumi's 8 handles as like 8 ritual swing and ring eighth grip, which is like, man.
Yeah, that rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, I mean the crunchy subs are also kind of iffy. Like in like episode 3, Nobara is like, oh no, is this a grade 4? Curse? No, it's even lower than that. A grade 3. It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, not correct.
That's yeah.
Not
But
correct.
the Crunchy translators, they definitely deserve a break. They're like paid nothing and treated horribly, but that's a completely different story.
Well,
Yeah.
we can't change the industry on this show.
No, no, that among the many capabilities that us young, handsome men here have, changing an entire industry in like 50 minutes is not it.
No. Okay, so we're already at almost an hour and a half.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, we've been going. So you mentioned that Kaisen was probably your least favorite of the week. So
Yes.
what was your top three?
My top three was MHA, followed by Chainsaw Man, followed by Mashle.
Interesting.
'Cause-
Okay.
Yeah, because Mashle, I just felt like had all the right things for me. It had a bit of dumb action. It had Mash's deadpan humor. It had finally like everyone realizing that he doesn't actually use magic. And I don't know, it just had all the right stuff for me. I'm realizing I'm not super invested in Mashle. I'm not like, at the edge of my seat trying to figure out what's happening. I'm just there for the ride. And this week the ride was fun. So
Yeah,
that's
I
it.
think
Also,
Mashle is not really at the point where you even necessarily could be. Like,
mhm,
other than like, ooh, who are these shady magician, sorcerer people, wizards? Other than that,
mhm,
there's not a ton of mystery there. You know,
mhm.
you're not trying to figure out who, Mash's secret dad is or whatever. It's just kind of like there's bad guys and he's the good guy and they fight.
Mhm.
Um, but man, does it just hit when it hits? It's really good.
Yeah, yeah. The final boss is gonna be like J.K. Rowling confirmed.
I'd be okay with
Uses
that.
uses transphobia magic.
Yeah, but like just the way that Mash himself is written, where he's like
Hmm.
very deadpan, but like even when he's nervous, he's deadpan. When he's
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
stressed, trying to be like, I can totally use magic, but like
Yeah.
he's still deadpan, but he's like trembling, and he's got like the anime like nervous sound effects on
Yeah.
and everything.
Yeah.
But he's still got the flat face, and then like someone finds him, and they're like, oh no, and Mash is like, up, up, they know.
I swear to God, every single image of MASH in like the comedy art style is like peak reaction image.
It is. All of them are good. They're all so good.
It's
The one where he just says,
um
"Well, good on you for going home. Could have done it sooner." So funny to me.
there's another one like earlier in the series where he's like, "Ah, that's a cool story. I came up with that when I was 12." I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna use this. I'm gonna wait for like the perfect opportunity and like quote someone with that."
Yeah, dude, all of his reactions are so good, but like it doesn't make the fighting feel frivolous or like stupid. Because when they actually
Hmm.
fight, like the fights are good. They had the whole section of chapters where Mash wasn't even really in it. It was just like the
Hmm.
buddies, fighting.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. It's just good. It's a
Yeah.
comedy series that knows how to not take itself too seriously, but not take itself so like frivolously that all this excitement is gone too. Like
Yeah.
the
That
spread of Mash kicking through that ancient artifact is so good. And like the
yes.
art in it is great, but like it's also like it's him kicking the strongest bad guy we've seen so far. So it's like an action scene, but it's also kind of timed funnily. Like it's got good
Hmm.
comedic timing for where it is because they go on
Hmm.
this 2-page rant about how it's the most powerful magical artifact in the entire world, and no matter what they
Hmm.
do, they can't beat it. And then the next
Hmm.
page is just page spread of him kicking through it.
Well, yeah, because that's the thing. I kind of saw that coming the moment they mentioned it reflects magic, because I was like, uh-oh.
Well, yeah, I mean, I knew it was
Okay.
going to be. Well, he doesn't have any, so it doesn't matter. But I did not
Yeah.
think the result was him going to be kicking through it into the guy's face.
Oh my God. Mashal in like physical format where you have like the page turns must hit different.
Oh, it's
Like,
got to.
I'm actually probably gonna start buying the volumes once they come out in English.
And then you have all of them with the exact same face, being like, "What?" and just remembering all the crazy stuff that he does, and realizing it's just because he's ripped.
It's so because like that's the other thing, right? It kind of puts them into the position of the audience for the last couple of chapters. We're like, how the hell did you do that without magic? Like that's impossible. Like how can he like, create wind zephyrs with his breath, like without magic, like just with the power of his lungs? I just think that's so cool. I think like the moment where everyone realizes that he doesn't have magic is handled so fucking funnily.
And it's funny to me because they're looking at it as like he's a normal guy, and they're that to them that's the thing that's like some silly fantasy book. He's a
Yeah.
guy that has no magic, right? Oh, it's so good.
What are you gonna tell me next? He has like a cell phone? Get real, dude.
Yeah, Mash was up there for me. I really like Doctor Stone this week. That's the one that we're always going to get accused of not giving it screen time because you don't read it, so I don't want to talk about it for too long.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm so bad at reading stuff these days. I'm like, I have books and manga series just kind of lined up. Yeah, I'm a horrible co-host. Fire me.
Yeah, this is the only one I think where we really differ on what we like put weight into because otherwise we kind of read most of the same stuff and don't care about
Yeah,
most of the same stuff.
yeah.
But Doctor
But like
Stone
I
like
mean,
this week does a
yeah.
really good job of being like, oh, we have more like there's never been a huge emphasis on physical conflict. It's very rare. So for
Hmm.
the way that it's written is it's doing it it's kind of gotten back to its roots a little bit where we need this resource, we need this item, we need to build this thing so that we can get what we need. They finally brought back, like the building map and stuff that
Hmm.
they kind of used it a little bit not too long ago when they were fighting the evil Americans, but like it feels a lot more like, oh, we've kind of had our big crazy arc and now we're back to exploring and we're doing cool. I don't know. It feels very back to its roots and it feels good and exciting to get there. Not that like the transition stuff wasn't good, but that, you kind of miss Senku busting out a map of where they're going to go next and what they're going to build next and it was a fun chapter.
Mm. Yeah, I'm excited to catch back up with Dr. Stone whenever I manage to do that, because I mean, at this point, it's probably like a year and a half that I haven't read it. Like, yeah, I caught up to it like that in that on that first legendary live read on Twitter, where I made myself popular with the fucking gorilla image.
It's
People still
Boichi
call me
art,
an
man.
ape.
You can't not do that with Boichi art.
Um, Boichi really like. Him deleting all of his hentai that he drew in his initial stages would make you believe he wants to separate himself from that past, but then he draws Kohaku and it's like, no, you're
Mm-hmm.
definitely still a hentai artist.
Yeah, well,
Um,
hey, the man acknowledges his roots for sure.
yeah. I mean, hey, when you start out with a Harry Potter hentai, kind of gotta. Um, yeah, do you know about that?
I did not know it was Harry Potter.
Yeah, it was a Harry Potter dojin, his first
That's
work.
pretty funny. But the man is
Yeah,
clearly making it work for him.
yeah, I mean, here he is. But yeah, no, after that live read, like I kept up with it for like 2 weeks, and then I don't know. I guess I just did the classical oceans where I just forget to care about something. Like I didn't fall off. I didn't dislike the new stuff. I just forgot to read it, I guess. And before I knew it, it was like half a year, and there were like 30 chapters, and I was like, okay, I'm already stacking 30. Let me stack 60. And here we are, and I've stacked like 100.
Well, one of these days, guys, we promise he will he will
Yeah.
get catch back up
Yeah.
on it, and we'll talk about it. Um,
I mean, it is good. Like what I read of it was excellent. Okay, I read up to when they first arrive in that tribal island where they find like the weapon that petrifies people, like that little launchy stone ropey thing.
mhm.
That was the last thing I read, and up to that point, it's great. Past that point, I can't judge, but I'm sure it remained great. I mean, it's written by what's his name, Inigaraki,
It
something like that.
is Riichiro Inagani.
Inaga. Okay, there you go. Like he's a good writer from what I've heard, and
Inagaki, sorry.
Inagaki, yeah, he's a good writer and apparently throws really dope parties. Uh,
Interesting.
he's a, yeah, he's apparently the guy who organizes all like Shonen Jump author parties, where he goes to hang out with Tabata and Horikoshi and Boichi.
Well, that sounds
So
like a good time.
yeah, I mean, other characters are also there, which
Yeah,
yeah,
I know specifically what you're referring to.
yeah,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
anyway.
Well, it's an industry. It's an industry. What can we do? But yeah, like Dr. Stone has the Ocean seal of approval, even though he hasn't read it for like a year and a half.
Okay,
That's
deal.
that's quality.
Well, yeah, we'll count that as a
You,
win.
yeah, you can print that, Wiz. You can print that onto the volumes as like a review snippet. It was good a year and a half ago.
I read it a year and a
Oceans,
half ago, and it was pretty good then. So
local anime man. Not even local. I'm 7,000 kilometers away.
European anime boy read it once a year and a half ago. Says pretty good.
It was good. A European. Well, if the Europeans like it.
Yeah, if Europe likes it, obviously it's great.
Oh yeah, because we have such great taste in everything. I mean, we popularized French cinema. And that shit's garbage.
Oh God.
Okay, do we have anything else? What do you think about Undead Unluck?
Very weird. Not in a bad
Yeah?
way.
Uh-huh.
Um, maybe not in a great. I don't know. I think this new character is just very confusing.
Yes. I
Um,
feel like
and
I,
not in a
I
way that like, not in a way of like I'm excited to piece together the mystery, just in a like what the fuck is going on kind of way.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't hate it, but just like what is. It's one of those things
Yeah.
where it's obviously going to start going in a new direction here, and
Hmm.
they're going to start, figuring some new stuff out and changing the way it works. But I have absolutely no theories on where that's going to be because this new character is very confusing.
I mean, this entire arc now, this new one with like the story that they wrote, like that. I feel like that kind of collapsed any idea of where this series could go, because it's just such an out there concept, right? It's almost, oh God, I'm gonna hate myself for coining this term. It's almost Chainsaw Manian, in a
Oh, we've
sense.
we've coined that term now. We're gonna have to use that again.
Yeah,
Yeah, I actually
put that
almost
on the
mentioned
Wiz volumes.
I almost mentioned Chainsaw Man as well, and just where it's like now we're kind of getting into such weird abstract storytelling that it feels like it intentionally is trying to like defy trope, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah,
But it hasn't quite hit Chainsaw Man levels up. We haven't had a Burger King chapter yet.
we
Um,
could honestly, it would fit.
it would, and that's the thing is that we've hit the point where it could now.
Mhm. Yeah, it's like, oh, you failed this task. We have introduced a new like Uma, and it's the Burger Uma. Have to go fight Ronald McDonald.
It's just a giant spider that's the Hamburglar.
But yeah, like I feel like we're in those chapters where we're being misdirected for a while until we figure out what this new person's power actually is. Because I feel like with a lot of the character introductions, there were a couple of chapters like that where shit just doesn't make sense for a couple of weeks, and
Yeah,
then everything falls
and her
into
power
place
is a lot more
somewhat.
abstract than like you can't move if he looks at you. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's going to
That's
take a
true.
little bit of explanation, I think, before we catch up with what it is she's supposed to
Yeah,
be or her relevance to the story. Because she's at the point where she's like, "Oh yeah, I know everything that's going to happen, and I'm going to help you now."
yeah. We kind of went from Magician's Red kind of powers to Goal Experience Requiem kind of powers.
Yeah, and it's weird because if she knows the future because of her power, that means she has multiple powers.
Yeah,
But I don't know. So maybe she doesn't because I don't know of any ones right now that have more than one power.
I don't know. She like attached Andy's arm and then had like the thing, the bullet power, I guess. But
Well, right, because she said that she materializes drawings. So that's how she
yeah,
made the plane too. She drew the plane and then it was real.
and she can
But
only do one thing at a time.
right, she can only materialize one drawing at a time. But then it makes you think that like if this if she knows the future and she's writing these stories, is the entire world just her materializing a volume of the series?
Well, that's the thing. It can't really be because she said she can only do one at a time. So she should technically be locked into just, upholding this universe story, I guess.
Oh, and then it would yeah, I guess it would prevent her from using
Yeah, I
her
mean,
power in other ways. I don't know. I don't know. It's
I
we'll have to learn more about her before we can make any real judgments on where
yeah,
this is going to go because this is her power is extremely confusing.
Yeah, I feel like a monkey on a typewriter right now.
And I mean, she even
Okay.
outright said, "There's really no point in having these powers if you have to follow the rules."
Yeah. I I'm kind of just waiting for Undead Unluck to like shatter the fourth wall, like more than it already did. Like I could imagine it directly addressing the reader. Like that's totally something it would do at this point.
I mean, we're close enough with this woman,
Yeah, pretty
and she's
much.
like, "Yeah, we're gonna start your training arc now." And it's
Yeah,
like,
that
okay.
was cool though. Yeah, I mean, it must be fun translating this because it uses so much lingo as well with
Yeah, it
training
uses a
arc and all
lot of
that.
like industry lingo.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it kind of enters that Chainsaw Man hall of like, what's your rating? What the fuck out of 10, you
Yep.
know?
My rating is
Yeah.
like
It was certainly a couple of words next to drawings on paper.
it was a chapter of words and images, and I read
Yes,
it.
it was a story segment of a manga called Undead X Unluck, but you don't pronounce the X because everything is Hunter x Hunter now.
Hmm. Well, it's interesting because on the actual app itself, they don't even put the X in.
Oh, yeah, that's
It's just
true.
Undead Unluck. There's no X in the.
Do they put the X in Hunter?
I think so. Yeah. Hang on, let me
Oh,
look it up.
okay. I guess Togashi gets the
Yes, they do put the
privileges.
X in Hunter. It's Hunter X Hunter written out on the app, but for
Damn.
Undead Unluck, it is not.
Well,
Which
you
watch
see, it's
that also because see, it's getting so meta now that what if that's also a meta commentary with when they printed it? She was like, "Yeah, you don't pronounce the X," and they're like, "All right, leave the
oh,
X out."
oh my God, yeah. It's like, well, you see, actually, it's pronounced Hunter squared.
Hunter multiplied by Hunter.
Hunter to the power of two.
So I don't know. I liked the chapter this week for Undead Unluck. It's never like bad, but I'm
Yeah, no,
certainly there's a lot of question marks of where it's gonna go.
yeah, I mean, at the very least, I can fire it up and know that I'm going to be entertained for like 3 minutes. So, like, what more can I want, really?
Exactly. What more can you ask for than 3 minutes of entertainment?
I mean, hey, we're adults reading a kids magazine, so
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
yeah. I remember I think in one of my videos someone got upset that I called like Shonen Jump like a kids magazine. It's like, what do you want me to tell you, guy? Like, it's a magazine targeted at kids. It's a kids
It's literally
magazine.
called
Like,
Shonen Jump, dude.
yeah,
What do you want?
like no, you see, actually, like the Japanese call it shonen as for kids, but their kids are so much more mature than Western kids
Ah,
because
yes,
it's
of
like
course.
so,
Nippon
yeah, of
greatness.
course. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. Like the glorious. Oh my God. Like it's the same when this is like barely related, but it bothered me today where someone insisted that I call JoJo's Bizarre Adventure by the Japanese name because Glorious Nippon. I'm like, there's no reason to do that unless you're Japanese.
It's like the people who call Trunks on Twitter Mirai Trunks instead of Future
Oh
Trunks.
God. Or people who call My Hero Academia Boku no Hero Academia. It's like,
Oh, God. My Hero Academia is written in the logo.
yeah, and it's oh my God,
It's
it's so
clearly
like
intended to be called that.
yeah, okay. You know who really hits different? People who insist on pronouncing Pokemon names in Japanese.
Oh, no. Zenigame instead of
Yeah,
Squirtle.
Lizardon and
Lizardon, my
Satoshi.
favorite.
Yeah, and it's like unless you're Japanese, don't do that. Like, there's no reason to.
No, there's absolutely no reason to do that because it's not like you're being. The only time I can even like understand it is like when people use the Japanese names of Dragon Ball attacks, because the localized names are just words they threw together that mean
Yeah,
nothing.
okay, that's fair. That's
Like
fair.
special beam cannon means nothing. So if you're gonna call it by the Japanese name, that's fine. Whatever. It's just an
Yeah.
attack name. But like, oh my god,
I mean, hey, I remember, did you watch or read Tower of God, the Korean
I did
manhwa?
not.
Yeah, it in Korean is called Tower of God in English. Guess what everyone called it when it
Oh
came out?
no.
They translated it into Japanese and called it Kami no To. And it's like
That's so awkward.
it's so dumb. I mean, it's the
They
same
do
when
that with Attack
people
on Titan too.
Oh God, okay, Attack on Titan is obnoxious because there you also have different countries doing ridiculous things with it. It's called Attack on Titan in every country, in Germany, in England, in Italy, everywhere. Well, okay, in Italy sometimes they use the Italian name, but mostly they use the English title. In France, they call it L'Attaque de Titan, and I wanna attack my brain out of my head.
All
Like,
I know
oh
is
my
every time I
God.
see someone put SNK as an abbreviation, I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And then someone's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
Attack on Titan. And I'm like, okay, shut up.
Yeah. I
It's
mean, oh
obviously
my,
not SNK.
I mean, that just reminds me of when Netflix's Castlevania came out, and everyone called like the English version of it the dub. It's like, no,
Nope.
that's not, that's
American written.
not. Oh, it's so annoying. Or when someone says, "Oh yeah, I watched the dub of Avatar: The Last Airbender," like, what do you mean?
I've actually,
What
yeah,
do you?
that's something I've weirdly had to explain to people like constantly is that dub
Mm,
does not mean language that's not Japanese. Dub
yeah,
means whatever language isn't the original one.
yeah, exactly.
Like you can have something that's in any language and it can be a dub as long as the original product was not that language.
Yeah, it. Oh my God, I hate like unnecessary Japanifications because I mean the localization industry exists for a reason.
Yeah,
Like,
there's a reason that it's called localization and not translation because
yeah,
sometimes translation doesn't work.
yeah.
There are
I
ways that
mean,
you can translate something that do not function properly.
mhm.
And it's
I
okay
mean,
to change those things. I don't know. I don't know.
yeah, because I mean that's I'm a big defender of dubs, of English dubs, because I love them to death. And I think people get really mean about them just because they change certain wordings, not realizing that a language isn't just a string of words. A language is a culture, and
Right. I
you
mean, it's
cannot translate
dialect,
cultures.
it's structure. There's so much more to it than the literal translation of a single word.
Yeah, and I mean, years of fan subs and fan literal translations have led to a couple of phrases being really popular in anime that sound so unnatural English. When in your life will a native English speaker say, I won't forgive you, or as if I'd let you do that? Like, those are completely unnatural expressions. You would say that differently if you were a native English speaker. Like,
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm going to scapegoat a little bit here, but I feel like a lot of that comes from the blowback on Funimation's Dragon Ball dub.
oh, of course. I
I,
mean,
I think it has to. I think that and Naruto are like the really big offenders of people who blow back on like because like I make fun of dubs because I just think they generally sound bad because
mhm,
like you can make up whatever reason you want for it. Oh, you can't tell it's bad in Japanese because you don't speak Japanese. Whatever, I don't care. All I know is that
mhm,
when I hear some white guy spouting off an anime speech, it sounds stupid to me. Like
mhm.
that's just what it is. But
Yeah.
like with Dragon Ball, you had this thing where it was pre-internet, and
Hmm.
so a lot of Dragon Ball information came either from obviously the show itself or from like very early web forums where the internet was just a fucking wasteland for a long time.
Hmm.
And so you could find anything on there, or they had like I remember when I was little, I had this magazine that was in the stores that was just like a Dragon Ball magazine of just people fucking talking about it, and
Hmm.
like so it led to nobody really knowing what was going on
Hmm.
because Funimation, when they changed it, they made it they because anime wasn't a thing back then. It was, but not like in the West, really. Dragon
Hmm.
Ball kind of popularized that, and Pokemon too,
Hmm.
and I guess Yu-Gi-Oh, whatever. But Dragon Ball is what we're
Hmm.
talking about. They marketed it right. They translated it off of apparently like a Spanish script. They said so it was like a
Hmm.
translated script, and then
Oh yeah.
they made the characters in a more Western marketable friendly-ish way, I guess you could say.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
Goku is very noble and very like you are the evil and I am going to stop you for the forces like the Namek speech. I am the
Yeah.
light in the darkness. Like Goku would never say that shit. And we
Hmm.
know that now because now we have access to that stuff and we didn't back then. And so it led to
Hmm.
this long period of time where there were so many people who were really active in Dragon Ball online communities basically having to go around correcting everyone for like 5 years.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think there's so much blowback from that now that like
Hmm.
because I mean look at Dragon Ball Super. They'll change half a line And the entirety of the internet is like, what the fuck? What the fuck?
Yeah,
What's happening,
yeah, yeah.
Funimation? What are you doing? And and for some stuff I agree. Because I think if you're localizing it and you do it to such an extent that you change everything about the intention of the phrasing, then you fucked up.
Yeah.
Like
Hmm.
if you localize a line that's meant to be Gohan like cheering Goku on, and then in English I think in the English dub they made him be like, "Wow, Dad, whatever." It's like that's not what they intended at all for that scene,
Hmm.
for Gohan
Yeah,
to
yeah.
be like a smarmy asshole. So like I get it if like that stuff bothers you, but the blowback on it has become so strong that like they can't do anything, even if it makes sense, without people getting angry.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? I think a lot of like dub hate simply stems from people watching old dubs or watching compilations of like haha dub fails from like the 90s and thinking that that reflects the current industry, which outside of choice cases like Super, which I don't know what the fuck happened with that dub because uh, it started out well and then it kind of devolved into some really weird shit. But
Well,
aside from
again, I think Funimation markets it. They write it to like what they think the fans will want it to be. I don't think it's the same thing as like a straight up, translation. Because
mm,
it's almost like Dragon Ball Z abridged at this point. It reminds me of like Yu-Gi-Oh GX, where they're leaning too
mm.
far into the joke.
Could be, yeah. But
And,
I mean, most modern dubs are very competent. I mean, I totally get it if you don't vibe with the anime characters speaking English. I don't vibe with movie characters from Hollywood movies speaking German, which is why I don't watch movies in my native language anymore. Um, so that's totally understandable. But like just from like the industry perspective and the production of it, dubs have become really proficient and really well made. Of course, it still depends on who's in it. Um, you
well,
know,
sure. And I
a
think that a
dub.
lot of it comes from, again, with Dragon Ball, is that like Super kind of holds on to it. I think they even said that like they don't want Super to feel alienating to the people that liked Dragon Ball Z. So it's
Mhm.
dubbed in a very specific way to like they're better about it, but they're still trying to invoke that feeling of what you had back then because that's to
Yeah.
them that's what their audience is. And say whatever you want about whether that's what they should be doing. I don't know. I don't really care to be honest, but I think that that's still the anime that most people have like the highest amount of people have exposure to is probably
Hmm.
Dragon Ball still.
Hmm.
And I just think that it creates so many problems when you're trying to be
Yeah.
that and Naruto using Believe It. Those two things
Okay.
will shadow dubs forever.
Okay. I unironically will defend Believe It. You know why? It once you hear it, how many times Japanese Naruto says Datebayo, it will annoy you just as
It
much.
does.
Like,
It totally does. But the difference is Believe It is such a fucking stupid phrase. And
yes, but
with the
so is
Datsubayo thing,
Datebayo.
it is. But like the way they use that and Sakura's stupid like Shanaro or whatever is they're
Oh
almost
yeah.
like sentence ending like just little things tacked on at the end. Whereas
Yeah.
believe it is like first of all it's two words.
Hmm.
And second of all it is the way that they use it is always tacked on as like additional thought. Like it's a new thought.
Hmm.
And never at any point did like because obviously I don't even really know what they mean, but like when Naruto's speaking, he doesn't stop and then turn around and then go Datsubayo and then jump off. you know?
Uh-huh.
So like in English, when he gives this speech and then he whips around and he poses and he's like, believe it. I'm like, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my entire life.
I
Like
mean, yeah, it's really dumb, but I rewatched. I'm in the process of rewatching all of Naruto because I hate myself. Um,
digital self harm.
and actually, I'm enjoying the shit out of it. It's so fun. But having like consumed vast parts of it, both in English and Japanese now as an adult, like once you hear it, the datebayo is actually more frequent than the believe it. Like especially as it gets into Shippuden, the believe
It
it.
is much more frequent, but I think again it's because of the way it's used. Whereas
That's
Datsubayo is
true.
like a verbal tick after his sentences. Believe it is
Mhm.
like portrayed as like his catchphrase.
Yeah, yeah. I think also that's just a thing, like a unique quality of Naruto. Well, unique is probably wrong, but like a specific quality of Naruto that every character has a vocal quirk. Like once you notice it in Japanese, everyone has one. Like Deidara has this really annoying thing in Japanese where he ends every sentence with And it's like I don't believe that every single one of the like what 35 million Japanese people have like a unique vocal quirk.
Yeah,
Like,
that's like the shitty version of One Piece characters having different laughs.
oh my, oh, don't get me fucking started.
Please don't get started because we're at an hour and 55 minutes.
Good, good. No, my last point on dubs is the English dub of Naruto, as memeable as it is, it gets really good at one point and it goes really bad again towards the end, but it never gets as bad as the German dub. Because in the German dub, first of all, it aired on a news network that has become infamous for their belief that all animation is always for children and not just, 6-year-olds, but 3-year-olds. So babies. And of course, their dub reflected that.
Nice.
And
Good.
yeah, and it led to a very infamous thing where they were not allowed to say the word kill or death. So no one died. Everyone got defeated.
Oh, so it's like the Shadow Realm.
Pretty much. But then they went above and beyond and also deleted any scene that included like corpses or death, which is kind of bad when you have that scene in like the Forest of Death where like Anko is seeing the corpses that have their face stolen and they're leaning over nothing because it's been photoshopped out. And they're like, "Oh my God, I've never seen something like this." And I'm like, "Lady, the ground?" And then
Is
there
that
is
the one? Is that the one with the theme song? The famous theme song?
yes, yes. That's the one. Because that's the thing. You need to understand that RTL didn't actually even get the Japanese versions of Naruto and then tinkered with it. They got the 4 Kids already tinkered versions and then extra tinkered with them visually.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, Zabuza's sword was a scepter.
That's
Like
amazing. They took the
they
blade
literally.
off?
I wait. I'll send you a picture real quick if I can find it because it's incredible. There's a scene where he stands on air because the blade is not there. Uh,
Oh, where
Zabuza
he throws the
German.
sword into the tree?
Yeah, wait. If I can find it real quick.
Oh my
Oh
god.
my God, I found it. It's so funny. Like it's so shameless as well. Like they really just didn't. RTL did not care. I mean, they still don't care. Their localizations are garbage. But here, I'm sending it to you. You're gonna have to edit this in.
It's just floating on the handle. It's
Yeah.
not even the full length of the handle.
Yeah, it's awful. And then there's the other one here, another very famous case. I'm gonna also send to you real quick. And this is how I watched Naruto the first time around. Like, look at this
He's
shit.
just pointing his magic wand at them.
Yes, it's so bad. And
Oh, that's like the Yu-Gi-Oh walkie-talkie guns.
or it's like the One Piece hammer machine, like the gun that just has a hammer come out of it. Oh, yeah, no, and that's how I watched Naruto the first time around. I did not understand jack shit about
Look at the
Sasuke's.
portion of Zabuza's knee that is photoshopped off because the blade was over it. And they didn't draw it back in.
Yeah, well, that's German quality, bro.
His leg is obviously cut off.
Like, can you imagine trying to understand Sasuke's backstory with this?
When no one's allowed to die.
There are no bodies, there's no blood. When Sasuke gets cut by like the shuriken, like air comes out like a balloon. It it's so awful.
Oh my god.
Yeah, no, the German Naruto localization is infamous for this, and they did a lot of stuff like that. They had weird censorships all over. There's one image that I remember that let me see if I can find it where they replaced a kunai with like a lunchbox. Oh my God, I found it. It's the scene where he stabs his hand. It's so bad, but this actually aired.
He's holding an apple. Why did they put an apple in his hand? I have to see the full clip after we're finished to know how they segue this thing in.
I don't think it exists because they deleted it everywhere because they've done a re-release where it's proper. I don't think it exists because also They
The
they went
apple
on
is
like
the funniest shit I've ever seen.
yeah, but that's the thing. Like, we only have screenshots like these because I believe around 2009, they went on like a huge purge. They tried to get everything deleted that reminded them of this, and they aired like a remade version. And they went as far as to delete like all like videos on YouTube that referenced it. Like there was a huge wave of copyright claims, like German YouTube. And it was bad. I remember there was the first like German abridged series, which was called Naruto Senseless, translated, which had a joke where it's like Naruto gets cut, and he asks Kakashi, so what do we do now? Do we like disinfect it and like close the bleeding? He's like, no, we just censor the wound, and then it just plops out of existence. He's like, oh, cool. Thank God we're working with 4 kids. Yeah, I don't think you can find any clips of this anymore. I think it's lost to time. I think these are the last
Oh
remnants we have.
man, that is a shame because this is some classic shit right here. It
Yeah,
reminds me
they
of that scene in Pokemon where the rice ball is supposed to be rolling down the thing, but they made it a sandwich instead.
yes. Oh my God. But yeah, like you know, anime censorship was bad back in the day, but it's not like that anymore. It doesn't really exist to that extent.
Oh yeah,
Um,
no, not at all. Oh my god, could you imagine if a modern dub did this shit? They
oh
would
my
get
God.
eviscerated.
Yeah, I think what was the last like localization I can think of that did this? Like, I mean, I suppose Crunchyroll does that with a lot of anime that they localize just, because they have their stupid age rating thing. So for example, Jujutsu Kaisen, if you watch it on Crunchyroll, they try to censor it, but they don't actually manage. I think in episode 2, when Gojo says, "Oh, you'll be torn apart if you're a Jujutsu sorcerer and you'll suffer," and there's like gore on the screen, and like for Crunchyroll just threw like a distortion filter over it, but you still clearly see the gore, so it was like, why even bother? But they do still try, but it's never this intrusive. Also, because it's just a whole lot of effort redrawing frames.
Right, like
Uh,
imagine taking the time to like Photoshop the entirety of Zabuza's sword out except for his little wand. And then like they didn't even redraw his leg, but they had to draw the background in.
yeah. Can you imagine trying to air the Zabuza fight when he doesn't have a sword?
Imagine airing the fight with Kakashi and him on the bridge.
Yeah.
Does just the second half of the fight not happen?
I know, Haku just falls over and dies. I remember that. Haku just flops over. Kakashi's lightning blade, which actually in German was called flaming sword for some reason. I guess lightning was not PG. Um, he uses it, but you never actually see him like use it. Like he
It never
activates.
hits anybody.
Yeah, in the next scene, Haku's just on the ground, defeated. The entire scene where Zabuza kills like that old guy's like army of mercenaries and him as well, that's cut. That doesn't happen.
He literally cuts the dude's head off.
Yeah, that doesn't happen. Like that entire plot never gets resolved. They just go home because because Haku falls asleep.
That's so good.
It's so
The
it's so
lunchbox is still the best one though. I'm never gonna recover from that.
what the
The
lunchbox.
lunchbox, and he's got an apple in his hand. So his hand is. They thought that the pose of his hand indicated too much pain, so they made him hold an apple.
It's so dumb. It's so
That's so
dumb.
astonishing, and I love every second of it. Oh my god, I can't believe I can't find these clips anymore.
I can try searching for them. I mean, yeah, I think it was 2009 when they really bombed like the with the MCA strikes.
That is
If I find any
amazing.
clips, I'm sending them over. Like, don't worry. If I find any clips, wait, hold on a second. I own a DVD in Naruto of Naruto in German.
Oh my god.
I think it's from the Chunin arc. When did I buy that? I must have bought that before 2009.
Oh my
Oh my God, I
god.
might have it. I need to check that. Like, it's like midnight here, but I need to check that right away.
Well,
Oh
that's
my
probably a
God.
good place as any to end it because we've been going for over 2 hours now.
Oh, okay. These just keep getting longer.
I know. We're gonna get to the point where it's just like a 6 hour episode.
Episode 10 is like gonna just be a full day.
I
It's gonna
know,
be a
seriously. We're
audio
just gonna live
vlog.
stream it starting from when the chapters drop to the end of the day.
And then episode 100 is gonna be we start when the chapters drop and we just stream until the next chapters drop.
Just a week straight.
The 160-hour stream. Oh my God.
All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to episode 5. We hope you enjoyed it. Oceans, do you have any closing words for the audience?
Uh, if you think English dubs are bad, Google Naruto in German.
I will put up all of these pictures, people. Don't worry. I'm just going to slowly zoom in on the apple for the remainder of the runtime. Every
It's
5
so
seconds, it's
good.
going to just zoom in a little bit on that apple. All
It's so good.
right, everybody. We will see you next time. Thank you for listening.
All right. Bye.